clock. Roll call, please.
Johnson.
Here.
Melton.
Here.
Rowe.
Here.
Bagley.
Here.
Harding.
Here.
Mr. President.
Here. Please stand for the pledge and remarks by Councilmember Don Rowe.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you spent much time down here in the last 30 years, you either knew or ran into Mike Kelly. Mike Kelly was a guy that came down here a lot. He lost Good Friday. And I thought it'd be nice to just share some thoughts about Mike that I read in the paper. Mike attended and completed his education at Christ the King School, Creighton Prep, and Creighton University, where he was a member of the varsity men's golf team. In 1972, Mike graduated from Creighton University School of Law. Following his graduation from law school, Mike practiced law with his father, the late Thomas P. Kelly. Mike's law practice was diverse, representing clients from all walks of life. Mike also served as a commissioner on the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, having been elected to the then county-wide seat in 1984. After leaving the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, Mike's professional practice was centered on government relations and lobbying, primarily before the Nebraska unicameral and various state and local government boards and councils, most notably the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission. In addition to Mike's legal practice and government career, Mike and his father, Tom, founded Clancy's Pub, formerly located at 72nd and Pacific Street. Mike was also owner of the famous Zestos on 13th Street, right next to Rosenblatt Stadium, before eventually opening a Zestos and Blatt Beer and Table at 12th and Mike Fahey Streets, next to the Charles Schwab Field. Mike was an avid golfer and sports fan, particularly of his beloved Chicago Cubs and Creighton Blue Jays. Mike was a loving husband, devoted father, and grandfather. Today we offer up a prayer of peace and comfort for his wife, Kathleen, his 3 sons, and 7 grandsons. We'll miss Mike.
Thank you. He certainly was one of a kind and will be missed. We'll intend to have a more formal city proclamation next week and invite the family down for that as well, but thank you for those remarks. Madam Clerk.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of legislative chambers.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate having you here on our many agenda items today. I'd encourage you to turn your cell phones off or at least to vibrate. Madam Clerk, the first item, please.
Item 6 is the election of a city council member for District 4. Yep, ballots are being distributed. A majority has not been reached. We have 3 votes for Eric Servan, and that's from Juanita Johnson, Danny Bagley, and Pete Festerson. We have 3 votes for Terry Blackburn from Brinker Harding, Amy Melton, and Don Rowe. A majority has not been reached. We have 3 votes for Ron Hugg from Juanita Johnson, Danny Bagley, and Pete Festerson, and 3 votes for Terry Blackburn from Brinker Harding, Amy Melton, and Don Rowe. A majority has been reached, all for Ron Hugg.
Congratulations, Mr. Hugg, on your appointment to the City Council. There will be a period of time for orientation, of course, for a new council member, and we anticipate a September 26th swearing in. I do want to thank all candidates. I believe all are here today for their interests, and all 12 candidates that submitted in this process. It takes a lot of courage to do that and to go through a process like this, as it does to run for office, and we appreciated everyone's interest and thought there were a lot of great candidates. I do also want to thank City Council members for stepping up during this time and for participating in this process, in particular Vice President Melton for her assistance in this effort, and definitely City Council staff and City Clerk staff too for all your work over the last several months on this issue. And I feel we had a productive group process, and we'll begin a new chapter on City Council District 4, and I know we all look forward to having council at full strength. Thank you.
If I may,
Yes.
I would just like to thank all 5 of the candidates, actually all 12 of the people that put their name forward. I think that the city of Omaha is very fortunate to have so many good quality people who are willing to step up and serve their community. And I hope that everyone continues to do that. And I look forward to supporting all of you in future endeavors and leadership in the city of Omaha. So I guess what I'd like to say to all of them, please don't give up. Thank you.
Thank you. Other points of privilege? Mr. Harding.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to thank all 12 who submitted their names, and even those who were interested and did not submit at this time, who've expressed an interest in maybe looking forward to serving in some public capacity in the future for the city. But the 12 that I met with, I appreciate your interest in the city and really your sacrifice that you were willing to make on behalf of for your family and yourself for the benefit of the citizens of Omaha. But I also want to thank the city of Omaha for their patience. When we started this process, we all knew it was going to be about 5 months, and 5 months way too long. So I do appreciate the patience of the citizens of District 4 and all the citizens of Omaha as we close this chapter and we open a new chapter for those in District 4 and the city of Omaha. And I wish Mr. Hug all the best. I know he has all the best interest of not only District 4, but all of Omaha in mind. And I look forward to serving with you for the remainder of the term and maybe even after that. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you. Mr. Bigley.
President, I just wanted to first thank the staff and the candidates that did submit, kind of echoing the comments that my colleagues are making. And I want to thank my colleagues because we went through this process, and it's unique that the 6 of us appointed the successor for this vacant seat. And I learned to appreciate the sacrifice that each of us makes on this council that Mr. Hug is joining us on. And I know he's going to hit the ground running, which I had confidence in all the candidates that submitted that they would do the same. They were eager. I had good conversations with them, all the candidates. And I know in this process, this body does function well together. We had good dialogue back and forth, and we reached a consensus today. It wasn't easy, but the communication was open. Everybody took each other's calls, and I think the process worked good for this. And I look forward to District 4 being represented. I know they'll be represented well, and we're all ready to help Mr. Hug get rolling here when he gets sworn in. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. These are very exciting and yet challenging times that we are experiencing here in Omaha, Nebraska. And this vacancy in District 4 has been vacant for quite a long time. The residents in District 4 have been without a voice. And granted, today we are trying to fill that void. May not be what everyone wants it to be, because of course you didn't have the opportunity to go and vote for your candidate. But under the circumstances, the policy, the procedures that we have in place now, this body, this city council, was charged with trying to do the best that they possibly could do. So I hope that you guys join us with giving Ron all the support that he needs to carry this across the finish line, especially until the next voting cycle. And again, I'm just elated for this time in terms of giving District 4 a voice that they very much need, someone that they can count on, a regular, someone that they can speak to and share their private thoughts or whatever concerns they may have in their district to someone on a regular basis. Again, it may not be what everyone wants it to be, but please understand that this body did try to do the best that it could in making this decision today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, sir. I don't have a lot to add. I agree with all the comments that have been made. I do want to offer up a word of thanks to President Festerson and Vice President Melton for working with staff well to create a process. I know for Mr. Dowding and his team and Eliza and her team, it was a process that needed to be put forth and one that we followed to the T. We didn't waver. And I did appreciate that, and so I just wanted to say thank you to that team for putting the process together and then allowing the process to work.
Thanks. Mr. Bigley.
Last comment, I always forget something. Thanks, Mr. President. I also wanted to thank, I reach out to a lot of people, just people that I've known in the community from all walks of Omaha, and that filled in a lot of blanks for me, and I was comfortable with most all these candidates. But I do want to especially thank the people that took the time to at least allow me to bounce things off them and get perspective, because it's an important role that we take in filling this seat. And there's a lot of people that helped me get to this decision, so I wanted to thank them as well. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. No further lights. Next item, please.
Item 7, a resolution to approve a revision to the 2024 budget to increase the general fund and community service programs by $1 million for Omaha 100, Inc.
So the next several items on the city council agenda are proposed budget amendments, and each has a public hearing and a vote separately. And when I call them up, I'll initially recognize the council member that introduced them in case they want to make an introduction of their amendment, and then we'll have the public hearing and vote on each one separately. So item number 7 was introduced by Councilmember Johnson. You were recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. This, again, exciting, challenging times that our city is facing, especially after the pandemic, where we're trying to revamp and get back into some space of normalcy. Cities should provide financial support to small businesses in underserved communities, particularly after a pandemic, for a multitude of compelling reasons. First and foremost, these businesses are often the lifeblood of disadvantaged neighborhoods, offering essential services, employment opportunities. By bolstering their financial stability, cities help ensure the availability of critical goods and jobs, ultimately enhancing the community's well-being. Moreover, investing in these businesses promotes economic inclusivity. Historically, marginalized communities have limited access to capital and resources, making it harder for their enterprise to survive. Financial support levels the playing field, fostering entrepreneurship and reducing income inequality. Furthermore, thriving local businesses can attract other investments, stimulating broader economic growth and revitalizing neglected areas. This, in turn, generates increased tax revenue for the city, which can be invested in social programs and the infrastructure improvements, further benefiting underserved communities. In sum, providing financial aid to small businesses in underserved areas post-pandemic is not just a matter of economic recovery, but also an investment in social equality, community development, and long-term resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any proponents on number 7 that would like to speak today? Senator McKinney, welcome.
How you doing? Terrell McKinney, my address.
Please.
5319 North 30th Street, apartment 410, Omaha, Nebraska, 68111. Again, State Senator Terrell McKinney, coming in support of City Councilwoman Juanita Johnson on this item. Investing in small businesses is something I'm a strong advocate for, and it's something I'll always support because I think it's what's needed in North Omaha, especially to change the tide in our community. Especially with the investment that's coming from the state in North Omaha, it's always good to see someone from the city trying to invest in economic activity in North Omaha, especially in our small businesses. A lot of resources go into not-for-profits in North Omaha, but I think a lot of resources should be directed towards for-profit businesses. I think that's, to me, in my opinion, the best way to address a lot of the issues that we face in North Omaha is to start investing in small businesses and business growth, to decrease the amount of crime and poverty, to increase our educational outcomes, and see more viability in our community. So that's why I'm here today, is to support this this mission by City Councilwoman Johnson. She called me and asked me would I come and support her, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for being here. Any other proponents on number 7 today?
Good afternoon. My name is Emiliano Lerda, and I live in 5115 Webster Street. Omaha, Nebraska, 68132. My wife and I are co-founders of a business called Elevator. We are a co-warehousing and community concept. We provide warehouse units ranging between 80 square feet to 1,300 square feet, and they're offered on a month-to-month basis. We opened our doors almost 1 year ago, and we're now 90% leased up. We have about 80 businesses in our building, and 70% of them are minority and woman-owned businesses. We believe that this resolution is worthy of our support because our members are working hard to innovate and to provide services and products that our community needs, and it's a great way to stimulate economic vibrancy in the city. So we're happy to lend our support to this resolution, and we're here if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents?
Hello, James Overton, 3217 Ohio Street. I'm here in support of Ms. Juanita Johnson in regards to hopefully implementing some sort of actual change or adding some additional value to the actual community. I've been a long-standing member of the community as far as actually from the business perspective, and as I look around the room, I see a lot of actual entrepreneurs, Mr. Clark, like I said, Mr. and Mrs. Ballard, and like I said, Mr. Cook back here. All of us and other individuals that actually have contracting services and different things in the community. They've been provided services and actually doing things for a long time without any community support. I mean, even though the amount of money that's actually being asked for is not a significant amount in the terms of what we can actually do to our community, it's still a boost. Anything to actually help stimulate exactly what we have going on in the community is a positive thing. I mean, whether it's from actually the restaurants, as to the actual construction, to the anything to keep these actual young people off the street and give them an opportunity to show them that they can do it too. That's the thing. Like I said, it's kind of like if you got mentors there inside of the community that I can actually go ahead and show them that there's positive things that they can do with their time and efforts. Like I said, that's something that should be actually supported. It really should. People should actually come in and sit up and say, you know what? These different businesses have popped up. If you've done this, and like I said, in sharing the information and the knowledge and giving it back into the community through this funding is essential at this point in time. It really is. Like I said, if we don't actually come together as a community and actually go ahead and get these initiatives funded for these children, our youth are lost. That's the problem now. They don't have anything to do. Like I said, they're not getting any job opportunities. The more money that's actually funneled into the neighborhoods, into the community, the better opportunity for them to actually go ahead and be successful in life. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other proponents?
Hi, Ryan Sell, 2405 Z Street, Omaha, Nebraska. Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for your time to speak as a proponent for item number 7 on the agenda. As a property owner and business owner, I believe Omaha 100 is an essential tool for development within the neighborhoods that are considered and labeled blighted. These blighted areas create lower property tax revenue for the city and county. Many representatives at every level continue to make promise of property tax cuts. This rarely happens, and when it does, the monetary value is very low for the property owner. It is my belief that the best way to create more revenue is to boost commerce and business within the blighted areas. As business and commerce increases, so do property valuations and investment within the community. This theory has been proven over and over throughout other communities and states. I have personally worked with Ms. Williams and can testify not only of her hard work, but accountability for herself and Omaha 100. This is no way a handout. The funds will be treated as an investment in the community. My agenda today has no monetary value for myself or my business. I'm here today because I believe we continue to speak in circles year after year, and we have to come up with new solutions. This investment is not about blighted areas. This investment is about Omaha and creating meaningful property tax revenue that will lower property tax rates for everyone. Police, fire, streets, parks already cover these areas. The liability for the city already exists. We need to create more revenue. The small investment today should be viewed as a TIF or opportunity zones that already exist in other areas such as the old market and by the airport. The best value that we have as a city to increase property tax revenue within the infrastructure that already exists is by voting yes today. If this funding just produces 2 or 3 successful businesses, the rewards of jobs, sales tax, increased property tax valuations, and other revenue will be paid back in tenfold. Omaha 100 holds themselves and the business accountable that it serves. I believe this is a small investment that can pay off immensely for the citizens of Omaha. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Other proponents? Please come down. Just so I know, is this the last speaker as a proponent on number 7? Okay, please come down to the front and be ready to go.
All right. Greetings, Raheem Sanders, address 11130 Jones Street, Omaha, Nebraska. Good afternoon, esteemed members of the City Council. Again, I'm Raheem, founder of PPRP Innovations, and I'm here today to urge you to support an award to Omaha 100 through this line item. Omaha 100 is a nonprofit certified community development financial institution and has been serving the Omaha community for over 30 years. They are known to provide home loans, business loans, and real estate development services to low and moderate income individuals and families located in socially disadvantaged neighborhoods throughout Nebraska. Our company has had the opportunity to work with Omaha 100 in the past year to provide data solutions to help them more efficiently use this information to validate their performance and demonstrate impact within the community. Based on what we've learned, Omaha 100 has a proven track record of success in supporting minorities and minority-owned businesses within some of Omaha's most disadvantaged communities. Without sharing all of their information, in the past 3 years alone, Omaha 100 has invested over $8 million in zip codes such as 68111, 68110, and 68108 to people who are majority Black and brown with average ages between 30 and 35. These are professionals, a growing population here in Nebraska. These loans has helped businesses start and expand and create jobs, and most importantly, provide greater hope and change in lives of those who lack access to these essential resources solely due to the zip code. We firmly believe Omaha 100 is committed to helping businesses in socially disadvantaged neighborhoods. We know that these neighborhoods are often overlooked by traditional lenders, but we believe that everyone has the opportunity to succeed. With this small investment, they will be able to increase their capacity to support these socially disadvantaged businesses. This means by providing support, Omaha 100 will be able to provide more loans and offer more financial education and develop resources that can help these businesses succeed. We believe that this investment will have a significant impact on the economic development of Omaha. And I urge you to award Omaha 100 with this investment to help continue to support their work of helping uplift minority-owned businesses in our communities and help create a prosperous future for all of Omaha. Thank you.
Thank you. Next proponent, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, councilmen and women. My name is Karin Sokpo, and I am the president and CEO of the Midlands African Chamber. We are the Black Chamber of Commerce here in town, in this state, the sole one. And it is my pleasure today to speak in support of line item number 7, the proposal brought forward by Councilwoman Jonita Johnson. We'll also like to offer our support to this initiative in support of Omaha 100, which is one of our members. We are over 200 businesses strong in our state, and the 3 main things that our members always tell us that they need from our city, from our government, is support and to help them in the areas of having funding for their businesses, their small businesses, having connections to grow their businesses, and also to have access to coaching and technical assistance. And I believe this resolution will do all 3 things. Omaha 100 has been very active in our community, especially in North Omaha, by providing access to those minority and underserved business owners that need all 3 things. The impacts of this proposal will include providing financial support, increase access and inclusivity, fostering networks and mentorship, and increasing overall visibility and recognition for those small businesses. In terms of outcome for our city, we have economic growth, more tax revenue, job creation, community development, and revitalization of those areas. All that on top of social and economic equity. This resolution will really help with increased innovation in our communities and with entrepreneurship, and we are pleased to support that. Our chambers is located on 7930 Blondo Street, right here in the heart of Omaha. Thank you.
Thank you. You did a nice job of adding your address at the end there. I was going to remind you. All right, next proponent.
Martin Williams of Martin Williams International and Dream Business. I want to thank Councilman for reintroducing this. It's very important for us to gather around this idea. Just a couple things from the national.
I don't want to interrupt you, but we do need your address too for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. 5421 North 103rd Street.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of statistics from the National Minority Supplier Development Council, a national council. The number one reason that minority businesses should be invested in is because minority businesses produce more than $400 billion of annual revenue to our amazing country. Also, 2.2 million jobs. Secondly, minority-owned businesses contribute over $49 billion to local and state federal taxes. Omaha definitely needs more taxes. Number 3, these business owners have the best potential to redevelop their own neighborhoods because they live there. Municipalities that invest in minority businesses also see a dramatic shift in the positive to community development, whether it's family, finance, infrastructure. Crimes go down, there's more community development once there is an investment in that community. Omaha 100 has poised itself as serving in the community with several other nonprofit organizations and for-profit organizations. They're committed to being a part of this community and has been serving it for a while. So I'm a proponent of this and will do anything that I can and we can to help it move along. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Councilmen and Councilwomen. My name is Candace Price. Address is 6005 Sorensen Parkway. I'm here as a proponent wearing a couple of different hats. So first as a business owner here in Omaha and also as a board member. So I'm a board member of Omaha 100, so I've been able to watch the work and participate in the work of Melinda, who is the executive director. And I also sit on the committee for small business and our small business lending activities that happen through Omaha 100. So as previously stated by Dr. Williams, Omaha 100 is poised to be able to enact these funds, to disperse these funds, and to monitor and do proper reporting of what goes on with these funds. As a business owner, I own Home Team Auto Sales along with Ron Devers at the corner of 60th and Sorensen. And so I do have to say that I was very disheartened as we got through COVID and there was funding that came from the city and they did not recognize the hurt that was caused to small businesses by the pandemic, which would be the initial reason for these funds. We did find a way to help to bolster activities of food service businesses, not including food trucks, but there are so many other businesses in our area that lift our community. I'm a proponent of this bill because I've been able to do so much in my business with so little. And all I can do is imagine what I would have been able to do at this point had I been funded properly in the beginning, which is the opportunity that we're looking to give to so many. Also, if you guys would know, Black women are the largest creator of new businesses within our country, yet we're the least funded. We now have learned how to start businesses, but we don't scale. There's a reason for that, and a lot of it has to do with capital and the lack of access to these resources, including the wraparound services that Omaha 100 is able to provide with these funds, such as proper bookkeeping, such as a CPA, such as the ability to hire and to hire properly without it disproportionately affecting our bottom lines. The reason that's important is because the majority of Black-owned businesses do not have employees. We've pretty much learned to hire ourselves and give ourselves jobs, which does help the economy, but it sure helps it a whole lot more when we can help our community and hire those within it and bring other businesses to our state. And so that's what's done with these small businesses. Myself, as a Black woman licensed auto dealer, the only one in the state, over the last 18 months, I've been highlighted on a national scale for what I do in the auto industry. That brings attention to our state as well as our city, which is something that's definitely needed. So it would be a huge help if we could have an extra lift for the work that we're already doing and to help so many others. And then the last hat that I'm standing here as is just as a mother. I'm the mom of 2 girls. And as they continue to grow and develop in life and what they may choose to do may be in entrepreneurship. I don't want to have the conversation with them that, well, it's going to be tougher for you to get going because you don't qualify for the capital that's available to so many others. I would love to see Omaha at the forefront of that push for the equity and equality that's needed to drive minority-owned businesses because we do so much and give so much to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next proponent.
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Dorothy Johnson, and I live at 2223 Dodge Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68102. And I'm also here to advocate on behalf of Omaha 100. The work that Melinda Williams has done in this community has been incredible. She has transplanted to this community and driven impact in a community that she's not native born to. Me, myself, I'm a proud North Omaha native. I graduated from Omaha North High School, and from there I went to college and decided to come back specifically to this community, my native born community. So ultimately, I really want to encourage this council. One, thank you for being here, but also to ask you all to invest in traditionally marginalized and traditionally underestimated communities. And for you all to do this work and to empower this work through Omaha 100 is an incredibly fruitful idea, giving us the power and the ownership to educate inside of our communities and elevate these communities. I also wear many hats. I'm the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion at a national venture capital firm, and we're investing in traditionally underestimated communities in 44 markets. So not only do I do this work locally, I do this work nationally. Melinda, the 100, the Chamber, Candace Price, we've come here in numbers to show support of this initiative. So I just want to come and represent Melinda, my community, also my children, as Candace said. But I want to encourage you all, please give us the tools so we can mobilize, educate, and fund ourselves inside of these communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Frank Hayes. I'm the owner of Hayes and Associates. We are a CPA firm here in Omaha. We've been in business doing this kind of work for over 40 years. In that capacity, I've worked with many different
Frank, just your address for the record, too.
Sorry?
Just your address for the record, too.
Oh, my address is 1015 North 98th Street. That's where our office is. I live at 2703 North 53rd here in Omaha. I just want to speak on behalf of this whole concept. The funding that will be used, I don't know if anyone's spoken, I was a little late, I apologize for that, but one of the reasons why during COVID, PPP funds were not awarded to minority-owned businesses was because they didn't understand the process and they didn't have the capacity, sometimes due to funding, to generate the necessary financial statements and information that was needed to receive that funding. As a result of that, there were many organizations, and you guys probably have heard about it, particularly minority and black organizations, that did not receive funding under PPP. That's a significant issue. It was a significant issue, and it continues to have a significant impact on minority and particularly black-owned businesses in the country as well as the city. So I would encourage you to support this initiative. I also have the privilege of working with Melinda since she's been on board at Omaha 100, and we have a long history with Omaha 100, even before Melinda came along. And so we're very familiar with the organization. It's a very sound financial organization. They do things the right way, and they go out and find the appropriate people and resources to do that. So I would encourage you to support this initiative on behalf of the Omaha 100.
Thank you. Next proponent.
Good afternoon. My name is B.C. Clark. I'm with the Business Connection. My address is 6102 North 102nd Street. That's my business address. My address is 8305 Weber Street. And I'm here in support of Melinda, and I'll tell you why. I'm a trainer. I've been training business owners and doing programs for them for the last 8 years, directly in the community, North and South Omaha. During the pandemic, a lot of, as Frank talked about, a lot of the business owners could not, they didn't understand how important it was to have financial education in order to be able to have good records. And so when the pandemic did hit, a lot of them that didn't have reserves, they were lost. They either had to shut down, they closed, some of them pivoted, the ones who had a finger on the finances. So we understand that the education is really important, and over the past 7.5 years, I know I've trained and worked with over 3,500 black and brown-owned businesses, and entrepreneurs daily coming in. And the key that I think that's so great is Melinda has her finger on what's needed. And I think a lot of times when we've had programs, maybe they weren't directed in the right area, but now that we have someone that has a program set, they know and understand the community, they understand what's needed, those funds can be detrimental to the success of not only hundreds of businesses in the community, even though it's a smaller amount, but for the community itself. Because as we fund those businesses and they're able to bring in more money, make more money, hire more people, then that brings in more money to the community. Then you see the community begin to change. You see houses begin to get fixed up. Yards are now better. And a lot of that is just because they never had the funding or understood what it was to even be a business owner. So I'm in support of Melinda in this initiative. Again, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Other proponents? How many more, just so I know? Okay, 3 more. 4.
Good afternoon. My name is Perrin Stewart. My address is 6526 North 40th Street, and I'm the Chief of Staff of Julian Young Business Advisors. Our mission is to level the economic playing field for socially economic and disadvantaged individuals through small business and technical assistance and capacity building services. On behalf of JYBA, I would like to express our enthusiastic support of the North Omaha Sustainable Opportunity and Resilience Fund, which seeks to empower and uplift many small businesses disproportionately impacted by the recent pandemic. We believe it's crucial for our city government to sponsor and support projects such as these. This focuses on the unleveled playing field and the minority and underserved small businesses that are forced to play on unleveled playing field. The reality of the North Omaha small businesses have gone the bad end of the stick through this pandemic, and often are overlooked when it comes to city and local budgets and major city projects. This bill sends the right message that one small business in North Omaha needs to hear. It says that they matter, and that they have always been a vital and valuable part of the greater Omaha economic forefront. Excuse me, sorry, I'm getting over a little cold.
Doing fine.
At Julian Young Business Advisors, we spent the last decade at the forefront of this fight for economic equality and trying to level the playing field. We look forward to partnering with the Omaha 100 and Councilwoman Johnson and to lead our expertise, and insights into resources of this project, and also our technical assistance to provide to all small businesses. Our hope is that today can be a giant step forward in providing much needed assistance and support to the small businesses in North Omaha community who desperately need it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next proponent.
Hello, my name is Chardale Barnes. My address, business address is 2520 North 24th Street, and personal address 5635 Burdette Street. I'm here in support of the Omaha 100 for two main reasons. One is for focus, and one is for wraparound services. So for the focus piece, I think that it's important to note that the Omaha 100 has branched off to do this specific type of work. And I think that Melinda is the right person to lead that initiative. She's a very articulate, very thorough, and a very honest and transparent individual, as my time getting to know her over the years. And I also think that her commitment to seeing that these funds go towards the right ethical places is something that should be noted as well. And there, some of the previous folks have spoken to funds that have already been distributed and how that started to have an impact. On the piece of wraparound services, Candace spoke to that. In my business is Stable Gray. We're a branding agency, and we have a lot of companies that come to us making inquiries, looking to get branding services because they want to either start their business or grow their business. And a lot of times we have to turn them away simply because they don't have the funding. They don't have the capital to hire us to complete these services for them. And that changes the image of our entire community, the way that people view companies and the quality that they're portraying, but also their ability to communicate and help people to make better buying decisions. So there's a lot of companies out there that offer a lot of great things, but aren't necessarily communicating that to the best of their ability. And we believe that through these funding initiatives, not only will that help our business grow, but we think that the services that we provide to other businesses will help them to grow as well, because they'll have that ability to communicate more effectively. So my message is simple. These funds provide focus, and they give people the power to invest in themselves and provide wraparound services. Thank you.
Thank you. Next proponents.
Good afternoon. Willie Barney, 2416 Lake Street. I just wanted to stand in support of this. I want to thank the councilwoman for introducing it. It's vitally important that the city invest in this way through entrepreneurship. Over the last 15 years, we've had a chance to interview, poll, research over 8,000 people, primarily in North and South Omaha. One of the top priorities consistently has been entrepreneurship. How do we help grow our small businesses? Specifically, and talking to over 400 primarily Black-owned businesses, the top priorities: access to credit and capital, technical assistance. Those are the things that the community has been asking for. So this investment will make a tremendous impact as we work on the solution of creating more job opportunities in our own community. So thank you for supporting, and look forward to the next steps.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Councilwoman, Councilman. My name is Oluseyi Olowolafe. My address is 6209 North 79th Circle. I own Olowolafe Law Firm. I represent several community members and several businesses that exist right here in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm a proponent of this resolution for several reasons. First and foremost, what affects majority of the plight and the issues that go on in certain neighborhoods starts off with the trauma of poverty. In order to address the trauma of poverty, you have to touch it on two bases. The first basis being social capital, which is what Omaha 100 does as it works with the individuals and the business owners to provide them the knowledge and capital in order to succeed. Not just succeed, but to know how to grow and scale their businesses. But the second aspect comes into the matter of what actual capital are they receiving. It's historically known that certain individuals, certain people, certain races do not get the lending privileges that others do. So in essence, you have a very strong business, but yet we ignore the very fundamental foundations of how can you grow and scale a business when you're not given the opportunity to do so. Omaha 100 addresses just that. It addresses both the social capital and the actual capital in order so a neighborhood can no longer be plighted with trauma of poverty, but in order to grow themselves economically and get themselves up and grow. This is an opportunity for this city and this body to do something more than what anybody else is doing. Touch people where they're at. Give them social capital, give them capital to better themselves, and then you won't have to spend money elsewhere, including tax revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Cheryl Weston, 1299 Farnham Street, Omaha, Nebraska. Thank you for this opportunity. And I know it might not be on this number, but congratulations on making a good choice to fill District 4. I want to say that I'm totally in support of being given this opportunity to small businesses to Omaha 100. I do not know the director personally, but I've heard nothing but good things about her and that she's turned that Omaha 100 around. I'm here also because anything that's going to help my community, which is North Omaha, because when you help North Omaha, you help all of Omaha. And many times I've heard each one of you say, it's not about which district you're there for, which district you were elected, but you're here to help all of Omaha. Omaha 100 is not asking just for a handout, they're asking for a step up. And when you help them, look at all the other parts of the community that you're helping. This is not something that we're looking at just to say, okay, well, you know, we could have, we did, and what. This is an opportunity that may not come again. So I'm asking that you would take and vote in a positive affirmative action manner to allow this to go forth and give this $1 million to Omaha 100, where they can in turn help all these other small businesses. They also do other things, as he mentioned, the wraparound, to help in other areas such as housing and so forth, credit building. Individuals that they're helping have had their a foot put on their head from growing to go and do the things that many of the other organizations that come forth from here and asked your approval for various loans, for various grants rather. So this is an opportunity for the city of Omaha. It's an opportunity for the City Council of Omaha to give this a positive affirmative. And I know we've all that come forth have said the same thing, but sometimes there's issues that you need to hear over and over again so that you can do something about them. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Good afternoon. My name is Christy Ballard. My address is 11254 Newport Avenue. My business address is 1917 South 67th Street, Suite 160 by way of Suite 145 right now. I came here today just as a business owner, of course, but also just to tell you a little bit about my journey. Everyone has a different journey, and mine resides in 45 days. 45 days is what I had and documented last year to where I did not have to think about funding. It was the day that I could take my sons to the park without thinking that that I would have to make an announcement that I was going to close. It was a day where myself and my husband could spend some quality time without me having to go to the store wondering how I'm going to do this. In those 45 days, it taught me that I have a superpower that I did not know of, that I had to do it. I just had to do it. You know, working and coming from corporate, like a lot of us probably have, we're the shining stars, we're the superstars in corporate world, but when it comes to your own, you don't have the resources. When I met Melinda, one of the questions that was asked, do you know what Omaha 100 is? And this was probably about maybe 3 years ago. And I said, oh yes, my husband is a part of that. And she was like, no. I'm thinking it was Omaha, 100 black men. Thank you. 100 black men. Because when I hear 100, that's where my mind goes. So she was like, no, that's not right. And she took me and we went out to lunch and she told me exactly what Omaha 100 was. That was my first time knowing that this service in Omaha was even a thing. And so I think for me it is that she is so passionate about helping the entrepreneur, helping the minority-owned business, helping the womanpreneur, that she will take you aside and tell you what resources that you need and what she is trying to get for you. So I just come to say that this that is in front of us for that Miss Juanita has put on today, it is so essential for all entrepreneurs. I know North Omaha businesses, South Omaha businesses, I know where I reside, all businesses, small business owners need the chance to be able to say and do exactly what they know how to do. So please, if you find it in your hearts, to vote yes to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next proponent.
Good afternoon. Esteemed members of the Omaha City Council, city staff, and fellow citizens, good afternoon. My name is Melinda Williams. I am the president and CEO for Omaha 100, community development financial institution here in Omaha, Nebraska. Address 2401 Lake Street, 68111. Do you need my personal?
Sorry?
My address too?
You're fine. That's good.
Okay, great. And here to address the program request in support of the Sustainable Opportunity and Resilience Fund, or SOAR Fund. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. Omaha 100, as has been mentioned, is a nonprofit lender, or CDFI, and we have been focused on expanding financial equity and inclusion by removing barriers and access to capital for people in the Omaha metropolitan and surrounding areas. We help make owning a home or starting a business accessible to all through 4 main lines of financial-based support: home lending, credit consolidation loans, business lending, and real estate development. At Omaha 100, we believe ownership is a proven pathway to generational wealth, and the cornerstone of economic vitality is the creation and viability of small businesses. Small businesses in America have historically and reliably helped create prosperity. According to the Federal Reserve, small businesses are an important component of the economic success and the strong community. They are responsible for 48% of private sector employees nationwide and an important driver of local, regional economic growth and an important source of household wealth. It is a universally accepted fact of economics that small businesses drive economic growth and job creation. Today, there are 2.58 million minority-owned businesses generating $150 billion in revenue and supporting 3.56 million jobs. They are the fastest growing segment of the nation's small business owners. Yet, in spite of these significant achievements, a wide gap remains. I'd like to highlight some important statistics regarding the state of small business locally. For perspective, in Nebraska, 5.9% of businesses are businesses of color. And according to business.org, our state ranks 39th with regard to minority business owner representation. This pinpoints an opportunity for the city of Omaha to invest in a segment of the population that has not historically received the same level of access to capital. And what we know is that investment in areas of our community that have been divested for years provide an economic benefit to our entire community. The pandemic unmasked critical unmet needs related to businesses' ability to access capital to grow and scale their businesses. An example, in 2020, only 53 minority businesses in Nebraska received PPP loans. That represents 1.27%, so less than 2%, of the total 4,179 businesses that received PPP loans in Nebraska. And that is of the $1.62 billion of federal loans that went out nationwide. Only 53 minority businesses were able to access those funds. The community we serve has historically been challenged by economic disparity across 70 distressed census tracts, where at least 50% of households have income less than 50% of the area median gross income, and the city of Omaha being identified as an enterprise zone that exceeds 200% of the state's average unemployment rate. So to reiterate, providing this requested grant funding support to minority small businesses will provide an economic benefit to our entire community, creating additional tax receipts, jobs, and innovative change to a more equitable society where everyone has a chance to thrive. We as a community look to you, our elected officials, for support in ensuring our small business owners have a fair chance at setting their business up for success now and into the future. I strongly urge the council to approve Omaha 100's request to partner with the city in providing this funding. The lifeblood of business development is access to capital, access to markets, access to business networks, and trusted guidance, all of which are assets and opportunities that Nebraska and the city of Omaha offers. Please aid us in unlocking them for everyone in Omaha's entrepreneurial ecosystem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any last proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. Some of you might take my words wrong, but believe me, I wish everybody good luck and good fortune. However, I do have a complaint, a major complaint, and I'll probably get shut off and run out for it. This was not listed on the agenda as a presentation.
This is a public hearing, Larry.
Okay.
That was proponents in your opponents.
Public hearing, but it's been a presentation, and Omaha 100 was not listed on item number 7.
It is, right there on the front
Point of
page.
order, I always get called out of order, and this was out of order, okay?
It's on the agenda.
Just a
right in
minor
front of you.
complaint. Rules are rules, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Are you testifying in opposition?
Now, can I go on,
Then you
or
can
am I
proceed.
done?
Yes.
Okay. Opportunity, access, various words border on what in some circles is referred to as cultural Marxism or CRT. And some people on this board in the past have said there's no truth to any of that matter. But there is. When you try to change the terminology of our country.
So Larry, this is about a small business program, not critical race.
But we have heard it for the last hour.
Keep your comments to the funding. Or
They've
we'll
used
be out of
those
order.
words: opportunity, funding, diversity, access. I couldn't write them all down, but it's there. Funding is one thing, but investment is another. Funding is what you people do. Investing is what I do, what they do. But they're here getting funding. They're not here getting investment. And state constitution says there will be no special laws. Is this not special laws when you're taking money from parks and recreation, for example, that somebody might need an improvement in their park, which might have been the park that I live near, Metcalf, or one in North Omaha that needs improvement. But you're taking money from them to give it to somebody else?
That's not this item.
Excuse me, I think that is probably against the state law. Thank you.
Any other opponents today?
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I think this should be more than $1 million. I think this should be $2 million. And you're not providing enough funding for the small businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents today? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I would like to thank everyone for coming and sharing their thoughts on this important resolution. I believe we've provided the argument that this is very much needed to uplift the community in Omaha as a whole. Small businesses throughout the United States is very essential to economic growth. We, as a city, should want to do that. We should do everything that we can to assist in this endeavor. We also have sentiments from the state of Nebraska that has recognized the need in this eastern part of the city to help with small businesses in the tune of $340 million. So this resolution was put forth to echo those sentiments, to stand beside and show the state that we are very, very much appreciative of that recognition that these funds are needed. And no better way to do that than to stand firm and support an initiative of supporting small businesses and providing the tools necessary for the operator to provide those fundings throughout this community. I stand in support of this resolution. I thank you for coming and standing in support of the resolution with me. I move to approve this.
Thank you. I'll offer a few comments, and then we'll see if there's a second. I would just say I appreciate Councilmember Johnson bringing this item to us, and I definitely appreciate all the testimony we had here today. A speaker said, have this in your heart, and I want you to know this is in my heart. And I think Councilmember Johnson knows that too. And I do support and agree with everything you observed here today, and I support your individual efforts and also the efforts of Omaha 100, and also the efforts of Senator McKinney. I appreciate what he's doing with what used to be LB 1024 and now 531 and the process that's unrolling as we speak. And I know that Omaha 100 was recommended initially for a major portion of that funding. And I hope that does come to fruition, and I want to support that any way I can. As Councilmember Johnson knows, however, I'm in a difficult position today in that the funding source this resolution proposes to use is in direct conflict with the funding source that I have on the agenda item and a couple items here and that I submitted several weeks ago. So that's why I'm unable to support this today or unable to provide a second, regrettably. Thank you. Ms. Melton, you're recognized.
Yes, and I would agree with you, and I've been keeping up with, I think, where that funding is going. I think I read in the paper the state funds that Senator McKinney is working on. Now there's a new application process. I'm hoping that that's going to go smoothly. I'm supporting your efforts there. I think that this group was one of the groups that was at least up for the funding that I read in the article. I fully support that if there's anything the city council can do. Senator McKinney, I share with you and Senator Wayne that I fully support that and hope that that continues to get done. My issue is that we start working on this budget. I start meeting with the mayor. By the way, we'll pass it today. We'll start working on the budget for the following year, 2025, in, I think, Mr. Curtis, February, March, you'll start working on it. There is a process for the budget. And so when we have either we're taking it out of cash reserves, which I know that just sounds so easy to do, but by the way, we can't just every time we want something, we take it out of our kind of our savings account, so to speak. And I think there is a process in the mayor's office. Chief Warren, I'm wondering if would you mind coming down for a moment, because there's a process for asking for community funds through the mayor's office. And if you could just provide that, because I think this would be a great opportunity for the mayor's office, perhaps Amber, to meet with this group. Previously, I know with ARPA funds, we provided funding for Front Porch, which also does some of the similar to what this organization does, provide the low income, the loans, low interest loans for lower income. but we weren't able to use the funds to provide loans because we're limited in our ability to do that. So we can provide for operating costs and expenses, but we're a little limited in how we can provide money for loans. So Chief Warren, do you want to explain the process for applying to the mayor's office for grants so that we can, maybe get this moving for next year, and how you do that?
Sure. Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the City Council, Thomas Warren, Mayor's Office. You raised a couple of issues. One with grant funds. Respectfully, the community services grant that the mayor will make available every year to organizations through an application process. As you mentioned, that process starts as early as February or March of the preceding fiscal year. Those funds are limited typically to operations. Talked about ARPA funds. We did have a process where we allocated dollars, and small business development, quite frankly, was one of the acceptable categories. However, when we surveyed the community with respect to those dollars, small business development didn't emerge as one of the priority areas. And as you know, we've allocated over $100 million from the American Rescue Plan Act for several categories, including revenue loss. And so those funds have already been obligated. What I would encourage individuals, organizations, particularly Omaha 100, if they are interested in pursuing an opportunity for funding from the City of Omaha, to communicate that similar to the proposal that is attached to this agenda. And it would be given all due consideration. But there is a process, and in this instance, as has been mentioned, not only has the budget been submitted, a balanced budget has been submitted. This particular resolution would have an impact where the mayor has identified property tax relief with the levy reduction that has been proposed, as well as other agenda items that will be considered. There are implications, quite frankly, for considering this request at this point in time.
And part of, you're up here instead of calling Mr. Curtis, but I think you're aware of the process, so I'm just going to kind of ask you and present this. Previously, when I first got on council, when council members had maybe different community service organizations that they felt should be given some funding, what we did is I went to the mayor and I would talk to the mayor about it during the budget process when I have those meetings with her, the frequent meetings with her in the winter, spring, really all the way up until I think May is when she's finalizing. But other council members would try and adjust the budget at this time. So Mayor Stothard then kind of set aside $350,000 for the city council to determine how that $350,000 should be used. And she did that again in this budget. And I think we see some other items on this agenda where each one of us kind of, I guess over time, Mr. Festerson, over time it kind of became, basically each council member has 50,000, because then that equals 350,000. And that helped so that we weren't taking away and decreasing another department's budget, or saying I'm going to take away from another community service fund that's already kind of had the funds allocated. So we have some on here, and 50,000 could be used, that Ms. Johnson could be used to go towards this organization. I don't know that it's on here. But that's kind of been the process for when we want allocation of funds to community service. We go to the mayor, we start the application, have them start the application process with the mayor, and or we have up to basically 50,000 per council member to allocate. And that's kind of been the process that we followed for the last couple of years.
That's correct, and that's a community service grant. Correction. The city council members have discretion to allocate those funds, but we do have a community services grant program that we probably have 2.5 million or thereabouts appropriated for that purpose. Organizations are invited to apply for those dollars. There are organizations that receive funding through community block grant development, as well as other funding sources, but the requests are made in advance of the budget preparation for the upcoming fiscal year. And so where certainly I would suggest that the city of Omaha would be supportive of these endeavors, including small business development, but there's a process in terms of submitting those requests. And as I mentioned, for this current year, the budget has been presented. A balanced budget has been presented, and so any further consideration will defer to the city council.
And because I think this would be a great group, and I would ask that if you don't have this organization's contact information, if you could provide that to Chief Warren, and perhaps he could get, Amber could get in contact with them to provide them with the application process so that this organization can get into that application process with the mayor's office for next year, in next year's budget process. My problem is just all of reallocating $1 million on the day when we have to vote for the budget. I think I have a fiscal responsibility to all of the taxpayers, and a fiduciary responsibility not to just be moving $1 million around at the very last minute. We've had the time to review all of the other amendments for weeks, to discuss it with Steve Curtis, and also to make sure that what we've allocated, we're not taking away from any other budget item. To where here, agenda items 7 and 8, it appears to be the same thing, just different funding sources. And I can say that we'll take the budget out of budget. I mean, it won't be balanced if we were to do this, or we would have to then decrease libraries by over 800,000. And we've already made commitments and contracts where we have to have that library personnel hired for a new library. So it's not that I don't support this measure, and I think what I'm hearing from you, it's not that you don't necessarily support supporting this organization, but maybe go through the process that the mayor's office has for those funds. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And even with all of the allocations for any group that's on our agenda right now, if it's going to a community service organization, I thought Amber was here. I was going to call her down, but you're on the hot seat, so you're going to have to, sorry.
Okay.
Even if we approve the money, it doesn't necessarily mean that the groups will get the money, because they still have to go through the process, the application, because the funds the city is limited by what we can do. And in fact, loans may not be something we can do. What we can do is help with the operating expenses and some of the other things that these organizations can do. So that would be something that you could work with the different applicants in figuring out what the city can cover and can't cover, and then how that can be worked into next year's budget.
That's correct. I mean, there are guidelines, there are some requirements. Obviously, for compliance purposes, all of that is spelled out in the application process. We would communicate with that particular organization and the applicant to explain exactly what those funds can be utilized, what they cannot be utilized for, but that is done in advance or during the actual application process.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate your willingness to meet with this organization and maybe start that process for next year. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Melton, for pointing out processes. But this question is for Mr. Curtis. Mr. Curtis, have we not ever in the history of budget brought such situation as this resolution before City Council to counter the proposed budget before? Has that ever happened before?
I guess I can only speak to the last 10 years since I've been here. I would suspect that has occurred over the last 10 years, but I don't think anything to this magnitude as far as this size.
So to suggest that we have a process and that perhaps it cannot be broken, is simply not correct. We do have a process, and just like anything that we do, there are exceptions. Would you agree to that?
Certainly there are exceptions.
Okay. And we just came out of a pandemic, which hasn't happened since early 1990s, the last pandemic that we had. This is certainly cause for a pause to look at making an exception. And small businesses, as Chief Warren mentioned, a survey was done to look at or analyze the need for ARPA funds as it relates to the city, and small businesses didn't surface. They didn't come up to the top. But it doesn't say or suggest that the need isn't there. So again, I'm strongly, I strongly believe that this is an opportunity for us to make an exception to help small businesses as we plan to revitalize our communities. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to make an exception, do the right things. We have all these individuals here that has presented the argument, presented the why, and yet this body isn't willing to flex, isn't willing to adjust. I think this is an opportunity for this body to say, hey, we stand in solidarity, once again, for this community, once again in solidarity with the state, to assist small businesses. Should we not adjust, then we're saying that, oh well, we're going to miss out on an opportunity where we can actually help our community, put a reduction in crime, save kids' lives, and we're unwilling to make an adjustment. We want to be in a box. This is a sad day for Omaha, Nebraska, especially when we continue to say we want to help the community. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further lights. Madam Clerk, I believe the item died for a second. Is that correct? For lack of second?
Correct.
There was no second. The item fails on the agenda. Next item, please.
Item 8, a resolution to approve a revision to the 2024 budget to increase the general fund and community service programs by $1 million for Omaha 100, Inc.
This is the public hearing and vote on number 8. Ms. Johnson, you are recognized.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve. I also have to have a public hearing on this just for process reasons. Proponents on number 8. Seeing none, any opponents? Yep.
Hi. Good afternoon. Hello, Council. My name's Keegan Korf. I reside at 1936 South 37th Street, Omaha, Nebraska 68105. I'm here today both as a resident of Omaha in Councilman Begley's district and as an Omaha Public Library Board trustee in opposition to Resolution 2023-0920, Agenda Item Number 8, seeking for a reallocation of funds by Councilwoman Johnson specifically to decrease in library personnel funds of $928, excuse me. While I appreciate Councilwoman Johnson's dedication to helping fund important community initiatives and nonprofit organizations such as Omaha 100, organizations that serve the North Omaha community, my suggestion to support such programs would not include taking funding specifically from the library budget, especially during a year when such historic development projects for the library are underway. I'm currently the most tenured member of the Omaha Public Library Board of Trustees, serving in my 6th year and my 3rd term. In my years of service to the library, I'll say that the efforts to bolster the library's funding in order to meet the staffing needs of a system preparing to expand with more branches have been significant, and much to our pleasure are being met by the city with Mayor Stothart's support for 2024. In order to best serve a community receiving a significant philanthropic gift in the form of a new central library, to support the capital and operational costs of a future Southwest branch, which is very needed, and to continue to provide innovative services and programs for the entire library system across the city budget must supplement the cost of operations in order to staff these free, accessible to all library spaces and programs. This dedication to increasing the library budget has been requested year after year from the community during budget hearing time, and we're finally seeing an increase that aligns with other systems across the country. To that, we're extremely grateful. On behalf of the Omaha Public Library Board of Trustees, I respectfully request a no vote on Resolution 2023-0920. Thank you.
Thank you. Other opponents?
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Marlene. I'm the Executive Director of Omaha Public Library. My office is at 3020 South 84th Street, and I'm here to speak against this resolution. For the past 2 years, the library has been working really hard with Heritage Services, our foundation, Do Space, to envision this new library building. And this is more than just a building. This is an opportunity that the library has never had to expand our capacity and further our work in the community. And that includes programs for literacy and digital equity. The incorporation of Do Space will certainly be a huge boost to our ability to improve digital equity at all of our libraries. These are system-wide changes, and they would really benefit the community we serve. And I hope you see that and encourage a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Other opponents to number 8?
Donnie Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. It was my understanding number 8 was to be adjusted for medical marijuana growths at the library.
That is not the understanding, no.
Oh, sorry, I'm wrong.
Other opponents to number 8?
Mr. President, members of the council, Matt Kalsevich, Parks and Recreation Director. I do want to say, as much as I respect and value what has been shared here today, it's my responsibility to advocate for resources and allocation for the Parks and Recreation Department. And so I am in opposition to this budget amendment to reduce the allocation of the Parks and Recreation budget in 2024. These two positions were specifically requested to further initiatives based on community feedback, growing needs, and improving access across the community. The addition of the recreation coordinator is specific to the expansion of our camp program. We have consistently had to leave hundreds on the waiting list, and this action would allow us to expand to include more than almost 800 spaces over the next 2 years. This is in addition to almost 600 openings added in 2023 that have already added additional stress to our current staff situation. This will also add capacity to include more scholarships to any student resident who qualifies for free and reduced lunch to access camps at a much reduced rate. The Planner 1 position proposed is part of accommodating the growth over the last decade in the city and the Parks and Recreation Department. There's a need to accelerate the development of basic infrastructure such as playgrounds, spray grounds, trail connections, and other important features that have been put on hold due to the limited capacity of current staffing numbers. With the addition of several other major projects, of which the Parks and Recreation Planning Team will be heavily involved, this new staff member would also assist with all day-to-day functions, creating more capacity for the entire team to contribute as needed to those high-level initiatives. The Parks and Recreation Department performs a comprehensive review of its needs annually, and the budget recommendation for 2024 reflects the additions that will make the largest impact and were deemed most significant. Not moving forward on these additions will delay other potential actions being prepared for the next several years in future budgets. We ask that you maintain what is proposed with the requested funding for Parks and Recreation and deny this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Other opponents?
Good afternoon, Jake Linder, Park Planning, 1819 Farnham.
Mr. Kalsovich hit on most of it, but the main reason for the addition on the Park Planner 1 position is that we need capacity to conduct exercises such as an inventory of park facilities. This would allow focused staff member to keep that updated for future use. The workload of the current Planner 2s does not allow them to manage functions like this. Other projects such as updating park signage has been set aside. In addition of this position could handle this project as well as other basic needs like the design of new features in our parks. The addition of the Planner 1 will help with the focus on repair projects, allowing the Planner 2s to better assist with drafting and some other work that is currently done by consultants, which we can do in-house at this point. In addition, 30 years ago, Park and Recreation Department only had 4 planners/designers. Currently, we only have 3. Considering all that has been added in that time, we are well behind and on our keeping up in that indeed. Eventually, we'll have turnover of employees, and we like to train a Planner 1 to possibly become a Planner 2. We would then have the structure to promote from within and build stability and being a long-term planning and visioning. Thank you.
Thank you. Other opponents?
Good afternoon. Chris Averling, City Recreation Manager, 1819 Farnham. I'd like to emphasize the undeniable necessity of adding a recreation coordinator to our 2024 budget. Our community has experienced significant growth, and the demands from the public for recreational opportunities have skyrocketed. This proposed position is not just a luxury, but a vital resource that will help us meet the increasing demand of our camp programs. We've listened to the voices of the community members who have consistently expressed the need for more camps and recreational opportunities throughout our city. Currently, our camps are so popular that they fill up quickly, leaving hundreds of eager campers on the waiting list each summer. By bringing in additional staff, we can launch an 8-week camp accommodating an extra 800 children every summer. This year, we're extending Camp Adams to 8 weeks, and the same transformation will happen at Camp Hanscom, which will then relocate to Mandan Park in 2025, becoming the exciting Camp Mandan. This wilderness camp will rival the highly regarded Hummel Day Camp, but to make it a reality, it will require dedicated staff to focus on its preparation. Our existing team is already stretched thin, and without this vital addition, we risk failing our youth, leaving them without the amazing camp experience that they deserve. Our commitment to assessing and addressing community needs should lead us to expand these youth opportunities. Our camps teach crucial life skills, promote water safety, foster teamwork, and provide opportunities for children from all corners of Omaha to forge lasting friendships. Let us not miss this opportunity to invest in our community's future and provide for our youth with the experiences they need and deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Other opponents?
Hi, Lauren Foster, 6016 South 96 Court, Apartment 3, Omaha, Nebraska, 68127. So first I just want to say Suicide Prevention Week. So I hope everyone is cultivating self-love by embracing who you are. Head to queerarchy.com, queerarchy.com to purchase a self-love kit if you're interested. All right, so I am the Vice Chair of the Parks and Recreation Board. This is my second term serving on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and I am not in favor to the city's request to reobligate $200,000 of our city Parks and Recreation budget to fund a nonprofit. As a federal employee who is certified in federal procurement in Section 3, working to understand the housing industry, maintaining funds, and investing more into our city parks is essential to community development and economic development as a whole. I was intentionally trained through the Greater Omaha Chamber's Economic Development Department. This decision to move government funds to a 501c3 not only feels problematic, but raises many red flags as to what internal conversations are being had to allow city council time to be spent on agenda items such as this. 501c3s have a plethora of freedom and resources to raise funds to solve their missions. City funds are a precious resource, and during a time when our state prisons have been past capacity for over a decade, new prisons are being developed, higher investment into law enforcement have been made, and we are asking the City Council to reallocate funds that would be used to continue to build safe and community-centric parks and programming, raises questions as to what mission our community is serving. I am not questioning the motives of our city council or a city, as I do not have enough information to do that. I'm merely asking for a pulse check to see if the heart of the city is still beating. Because if the heart is not beating for the safety, security, joy, and right for our children to be seen as children and raised as children.
I'm sorry, ma'am, I think you're off topic here. You have to address the funding suggestion here for the Parks and Library departments to go to Omaha 100.
Yes, that is what I am
It
suggesting.
didn't sound like it, so get
Okay.
back on topic or else we'll call you out of order, okay?
That's fine. Okay. So, yeah, the nonprofit being asked to be funded originated the same year of my birth to respond to the inequities and lack of home ownership opportunities in our community. 30 years later, their mission still lives on as my generation is still sacrificing time, energy, and the mental capacity to correct these deep-seated roots. So you have the team and the volunteers in place to make your city budget work appropriately. So I'm asking you to put trust and faith into your parks director and vote to not reallocate these funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents on number 8? Welcome.
And you can call me out of order if I'm not doing this properly. Thank you. So, my reason for being opposed.
Just your name and address for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot.
Yep.
It's Margot Juarez, and my address is 5170 O'Hearn Street. And I'm opposing any decrease in the parks funds because I am frustrated that my request to improve my park has been ignored. And I contacted Mr. Palermo back in February 16th of 2022. And I expressed my interest in improving my neighborhood park. And I had Sarah, who came from the department, who had a meeting with my neighbors so that we could go over a plan of improving the Red Mundley Park in my neighborhood. I was told in April of 23 that they were waiting to hear back on a grant application from the Papio Missouri River NRD. So I have concerns that the funds in the Parks Department are declining. I have a concern that my interest in improving my park have been completely ignored when I see that other city parks are getting funds. You have 2 parks in the consent agenda that you are looking to improve upon, let alone the park, I believe was Tranquility, to get funds there. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, because as you can see by these dates, I have been trying for a while to improve my city park, and here I sit. No action, no funds, no nothing. So I'm sure the fact that that the Parks and Rec are going to get lowered in funds is not a good thing for me. I brought the preliminary drawing that I have of my park, which is dated March 16th of 2023. And again, I want to emphasize, look at what the date is today and no action. And I'm extremely frustrated. I'm also a leader in the Buena Vista Neighborhood Association. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents to number 8?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. The word nonprofit is becoming rather confusing anymore, and a way to maybe make a living for yourself for a lot of people. But a lot of nonprofits are working against the citizens. You know, I'd like to see our local bodies help North Omaha without having to give money away all the time. This is not on me. I'm not a racist. This is on our local leaders that have gone all the way back in the years for not helping develop areas of North Omaha that should be. I drive down Hamilton Street. A lot of those houses probably should be blighted. I don't know if you've blighted it yet or not, but you're getting close to my neighborhood.
Got to keep your topics to the funding proposition.
And I'm not getting funding to pay my property taxes. Why do a lot of people get to come and ask money as a nonprofit? The executives get paid, the employees get paid. It's a way of running a business, but somebody else is paying for it, is it not? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents to number 8? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. This question is for the public library. If someone could come up and answer a few questions. Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Obviously, I'm a big proponent for the library. It's doing wonderful thing. I'm very supportive of the library down in the downtown area. So just for point of clarification, because the public really does need to know about these funds that we are in opposition for, when will the new building be built on 72nd in Dodge?
Construction will be starting soon, and it's planned to open in 2026.
So in 2026, so may I ask the position of the staffing that these funds are being allocated for?
These funds will add staff that will support our new facilities plan and our strategic plan and prepare them so that they're ready when we open to move forward with partnerships and advance those 2 programs.
And when will these individuals be hired?
Early 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bagley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Laura, sorry, or Ms. Korf, can you come down for a second? One of you, thanks. Either one. Laura, thanks. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming down today. So, to be clear, I've been on the library committee for 2 years and was referenced our new beautiful library on 72nd Dodge. You're looking, I know my friend Councilmember Rowe has talked about a library in southwest part of Omaha that is on the docket being looked at, being studied. When we've had meetings on the library committee that I sat on for the first 2 years in the council, some of the things that, the simple things in the library you were looking at were the pay of the personnel, correct?
Yes.
And there were steps taken to address that by increasing the pay of people that work the library system, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And going forward, the budget for the Omaha Public Library has been increased this year, correct?
Yes, significantly.
And that is it fair to say also that the hours at the Omaha Public Libraries have been extended?
Yes, we've added an hour Monday through Thursdays, and we expect that we'll be doing that again as we ramp up towards Central Library opening.
Okay, thanks for that. And when you do that, that increases the budget for the library as far as expenses go, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if there's positions eliminated from the library budget that is proposed right now, does that hurt the library system, and does that hurt families that want to go enjoy our beautiful libraries in Omaha?
Yes, right now we are at capacity, barely at capacity, and our ability to expand programming the way our patrons have suggested and requested is very limited. Adding these positions, they'll be working on system-wide changes that will allow us to improve programming at all of our locations and to extend hours and to meet the needs of the community.
Okay, thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. And Ms. Korf, thanks for coming down today and for your email and all you have done. I've learned from you being on the council, your experience and being a subject matter expert with Laura. It's helped me greatly on my first 2 years. Thanks, Laura. Thanks. I got a question for Matt if you're hot in the box there.
Matt Kalsovich, Parks and Recreation Director.
Good afternoon, Matt. We had a couple conversations, and one of your staff members here, that planner position that is being discussed here today. Tell me a little bit about what that position does again, so I'm clear on that.
Absolutely. So we're trying to introduce this entry-level position to really accommodate some of the workload that's had to really sit off to the side. And it's about our bigger development. It's about furthering some of the projects that we have. It's about adding some of the infrastructure and catching up on some of the basic things that we haven't had the ability to do in recent years with new playgrounds, new spray grounds, things coming into existence at the pace they should be for a community like ours and a park system like ours. So, and as Jake mentioned, the capacity that we had, 30 years ago, and even having less people contributing to that to keep up with some of those needs on this day, we're trying to take that step forward again to keep up with, again, the demand and the infrastructure issues that we're having of a system the size and age of ours.
That's a great explanation. And we also had talked about the coordinator position that we're discussing here today. Talk a little bit about, again, the parks that we had talked about, the summer programs. And I know I was trying to remember, and it came to me without phoning a friend. Mr. Fanslaw didn't remember it, but I remembered before you got up. It was Fontenelle Forest, my brothers and I, and neighborhood kids. Way back in the 80s, we took a bus from our school and went down in Bellevue there, right off 13th Street. And my kids were able to enjoy, along with their friends. They went to Hummel Camp every summer. And I would take my dad and my mom there, and we'd enjoy the last day, and the counselors were terrific. Talk a little bit about this coordinator position, how that would impact what I just described from 40 years ago when I did it to when my kids did it 20 years ago, and what that'll look like now with this position. Will it increase the number of kids that can go to this?
Absolutely. So there's a significant jump forward with the addition of this. And the thing I will add is even what we're addressing here, and it went back to one of the statements I made earlier, only helps us take one step forward. There's several other steps that the addition of this position will help us move toward, but maybe not quite get to yet, but it's the step in the process we have to take. As far as camps are concerned, and you're right, you mentioned Fontenelle Forest. Mandan is really kind of an extension of that beautiful stretch that's unique to this area. So very much like Hummel, Mandan will be produced in the similar style of adventure camp. And that's really the camp that people want to get into most of all. So addressing that specifically here in a 2-year transition is really going to help us take care of, somewhere between, like I mentioned, additional 600 people this year, as many as 800 participants over the next 2 years. We'll have Hummel, Adams, Zorinsky, Hanscom that will all exist in 8-week formats, and then that Hanscom footprint will be moved over to Mandan in 2025, providing 4 8-week camps across the city, distributed in a way that we feel like everyone has access, and then again, this planning possibility that opens up with the coordinator position, really focusing on the development of that new piece.
I really like the sound of that and studying that. And again, that goes from 4 weeks before, now the camps are 8 weeks. So
it's really adding an additional 8-week camp here in this transition. Right now, Adams and Hanscom share 8 weeks. So we have 3 different places that offer 8 weeks in total. This really produces the opportunity to add an additional 8-week camp next year, and then its new permanent home in Mandan in 2025. So really bringing us into a new era of opportunity. It's really burst into a new level of interest over the last 5-6 years since we've established some of these camps. Hummel goes way back, but some of these other camps are relatively young. So to keep up with that need is critical.
I appreciate your explanation on that, and I know you get a lot of emails, and I won't speak for my colleagues, but I know you probably hear from me on a weekly basis on issues we got in various parks in my district. I know there's 256 parks. I did phone a friend to make sure I had that answer. I was off by 4. Thanks for
Close.
the answer.
Yeah.
It is important. All these moving parts of the Parks Department, from Trimenum to the planning in Dolman Park, People Park, Clarkson have been had some ARPA money infused into in my district, and the coordinator position with the summer camp, I couldn't be more supportive of that. And the planner, as was said, there was 4 of them 30 years ago, and now there's 3, and I'm assuming there were not 256 parks 30 years ago. Is that fair to say?
No, it's grown quite a bit in recent years.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
President.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Matt, I have a few questions for you. With this proposal of new employee, new additional staff, we still have communities that were blessed with ARPA funds. Things like parks like Coons Park, Adams Park, Lizzie Robinson Parkway, Martin Luther King. Those things have been allocated using ARPA funds
Correct.
to be improved upon.
Yes.
But yet they fail to be done. Will these additional staffers ensure that this work is going to get done quicker, or will we continue to be pushed further and further and further back on the priority list?
The ARPA projects are in motion as strategized, and we do have a specific staff person dedicated to the ARPA projects outside of everything else that we're responsible for taking care of. So those are really two different ideas as far as ARPA investment and the additional investment in our system. This position will absolutely help move all of what we're trying to accomplish forward. The ARPA projects are still very much on track to be completed in the time frame that we've been provided. And in this case, we're working through city policy, federal policy. We have almost half of those out to bid and entering a time of construction here in the near future. And the next wave, and we did set up a priority about ARPA projects happening within the window of time that we were allocated, will activate and launch accordingly. And all of that should still very much be on track to finish as was required by the ARPA allotment.
And as I stated before, for my community, can you give us timelines when those ARPA funds for the improvement in which those parks that have been identified that we just discussed, when we can expect them to be completed?
I won't stand up here and project about things that we don't have all the details on at this point. Again, our ARPA timeline is allocation of money in '24, completion of all projects by the end of '26. That's very much the path we're on at this point, to have everything completed within those windows of time.
So we have no timeline when those are going to be complete, and adding these additional staffers is not going to assist with getting those projects done any faster.
You're asking about ARPA specific projects. I've given you the information we have on that. This position is about everything else in our system non-ARPA, of which we have a long list of things we need to pay attention to and invest in, of which every council district is included in that list.
Thank you for not providing an answer in terms of a timeline when those projects will be completed.
Happy to share the information I did. Thank you.
There are no further lights on this item. There was a motion, but it died for lack of a second. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Correct.
Thank you. Next item.
Item 9, a resolution to approve a revision to the 2024 budget to decrease the general fund property tax revenue by $900,000 is amendment of the whole request by the Finance Department.
Public hearing and vote on number 9 is today. I introduced this measure, so I'll start with an introduction of it as introduced, and then the amendment of the whole that's included today, and then we'll have public hearing and council member comments. What item 9 does, as introduced, would remove the increase to the cash reserve proposed in the 2024 budget, and instead return it to taxpayers in the form of a levy reduction and tax relief, in addition to $50,000 from the contingency fund. And the reason I introduced this amendment was I think it's important we listen to the taxpayers and provide as much property tax relief as possible. And certainly we heard that during our public hearing on the budget, frustration with valuation increases across the city. For an average homeowner, 10 to 12%, but many a lot more than that. And so this recognizes that situation and puts those funds instead back into tax relief. And I know it won't change the outlook for many individual property owners, but I think it's important to do all that we can in that respect this year. It would increase the proposed reduction by about 20%. So about the proposed property tax cut in the budget was about 2.13%. And this would take that to 2.52% in 2024. And I want to speak a little bit to the cash reserve too. I've always supported building up our cash reserve. I do think that's important. This does not decrease the cash reserve. It just uses the money that was otherwise proposed to go back into cash reserve in '24 to take it even higher. It is at a historic level right now, and in fact, it's close to our maximum level. We can only maintain a cash reserve of 8% of the general fund, which would be about $40 million. And even with this amendment, our cash reserve, as proposed in the 2024 budget, would be $36,448,000 approximately. I would also note that all other city revenues are doing well, so I'm confident this is something that we can responsibly do. I'd like to do more. I think other council members may too. But it's also true, we have a serious police officer shortage right now, and that we must address as quickly as possible. And that is included in the 2024 budget. So that represents about a $9.6 million increase in the 2024 budget in the police department to make sure we can attract and retain officers to address that shortage. And I'm supportive of that. We do have that proposed contract as a public hearing today on our agenda as well. So in light of those challenges and having to fund those challenges, this is something I thought was also important to do to try to maximize that tax cut. A word on the amendment of the whole. So what the amendment of the whole does to what was introduced is it maintains that same intent. It does two minor tweaks to that initial proposal. One is that it'll change the amount of the levy reduction in a way supported by the finance department to have it make sense in terms of the digits that will appear on a property taxpayers reduced levy. And then secondly, it'll actually increase that amount to $935,910 with some contingency funds that Councilmember Harding may want to speak to as we get going here. So that represents the amendment of the whole that I would request the council approve today, and that does take 5 votes, just for everyone's knowledge. With that, I will open the public hearing and ask for proponents. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. President. This question is for Steve Curtis. The amendment that is before us, is it not modifying the budget?
Steve Curtis, City Finance, yes, it is modifying the budget.
So earlier, we had discussion that we don't modify the budget. There's a process in which we modify the budget.
I'm sorry, was that a question?
Earlier, we had a comment that was made that normally we do not modify the budget. There's a process in which we modify the budget.
Yeah, I think we're mostly talking about the community service expenses, but yeah, I believe you are correct.
So this is saying that we do make exceptions.
If this was voted on, this would certainly be an exception to the standing budget.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harding.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to have to go in reverse order now. I think what was asked earlier, or the intent of the response was that normally, yes, this does amend the budget, and it is for, excuse me, a rather large amount. But I think Council Member Melton brought this up earlier too, that we've had this amendment for a number of weeks. We've had the ability to vet it. We've had the ability to have conversations about it with the directors, the administration, council staff have done that homework on it. I think, not to put words in mouth, but I think Councilmember Melton was saying that we just got 7 and 8 just last week. So I think that was the intent of the question earlier, and maybe an explanation as to how that might be different, what we're considering in number 9 as opposed to what was proposed in 7 and 8. So Now I'll go back to what I was originally going to say. First of all, I want to thank and applaud the mayor and the administration for the original proposed reduction in the levy. I know that she would always like to do more in that respect, but I also know that she is very cognizant of our bond rating and making sure that our city finances are in good order for the citizens as well as the bond raters. So the contingency fund is, I know kind of the moniker we give it really is the rainy day fund. I think we learned a lot from the pandemic that we need to have a plan for those emergency funds. And the federal government's not going to always be there to bail us out, number one. And number two, at the level they've bailed us out, I think we've seen some negative results from that in many respects. So I think I feel confident, as Council President Festerson has brought up, we are limited, we are capped at what we can have in that fund. Actually, I think we had at the Charter Convention a couple years ago, we were trying to raise that amount from 8%, I believe, to 12%, but it is at 8%. So we're capped at around 40 million, and with this action, we will still be at about $36.5 million in that contingency fund. So I feel, albeit it's a rather, in my estimation, paltry amount that we're adding to the levy reduction, I don't feel that it will be negatively impacting our contingency fund and therefore negatively impact us by the bond raters. Council member President Festerson mentioned that on the $85,000, I think in the non-personnel portion of this, there was about $40,000 of the $350,000 of community service money that was, I'll say, still on the table. And rather than try to find a home for that without much investigation, I thought it was more appropriate to give that as well. And that's, talk about paltry, that's even more paltry, but added that back to what we're giving back to the taxpayers. So that's why that $85,910 amount is different than was originally proposed, of somewhere around $50,000.
Thank you. Ms. Melton.
Thank you. Well, I know that, since it's your motion and you are the president, you are not allowed to make the motion. So I will make the motion to approve this.
Thank you.
On your behalf.
Mr. President, I was in the queue before Ms. Melton, and somehow I got bumped out.
Okay.
I will defer. I have nothing more to say, so I defer to Ms. Johnson.
I will second Ms. Johnson. I'm not sure how that happened, but that's not what my screen showed. But the floor is yours.
Thank you. This council has demonstrated to me that when the community bleeds, they are responsive to that need, such as property tax. My community continues to bleed economically, transportation, and all variety of ways, to include parks. But yet, there is no relief. Again, this adjustment to this resolution indicates that we can think outside the box. We can make modifications to the budget, although earlier we were cited as we couldn't do that. We can do anything we want if we have the desire to do so. So this motion again echoes that sentiment, that we can do that. We can make adjustments if we want to. So again, my community continue to bleed. We get a streetcar that doubles what Orbit already does, while my community, East Omaha, continues to lack reliable public transportation. We have small businesses in East Omaha that are still trying to keep their head afloat after the pandemic, but no relief. So I'm sorry, I will not be able to support this.
Thank you. Mr. Bagley.
Thanks, Mr. President. I know in the conversations, Mr. President, you and I had, I did get multiple emails over the last several weeks on property taxes, and I know the mayor in her budget, I think it's, if it shows that dollar, it's like 22% of your property tax bill is what the city takes, and the rest go to the county, the NRD, certainly the OPS school system. And as you try to explain to people the property tax valuations going up, the one thing they want is relief. And when Council President Fesserson put this forward and we had the discussions on it, as I did with others, it is something that impacts everybody in the city, not just District 3. My own neighborhood, Morton Meadows, that I live in right now, the valuations, mine went skyrocketing like a lot of people in the cities. So I am glad to support this. I know it doesn't move the needle that everybody can wipe their brow and say this fixes a problem. But I think it sends a message certainly to the constituents in District 3 that we are listening. This is a budget that has been studied for a year, as has been evident by the discussion we've had, the documentation we get on it. And it's hard to understand the moving parts of it, but this, in respect to this item agenda, and I'm going to support today, for the reasons I said, that it does, again, it doesn't fix a problem of property tax, but it shows that the council is listening, and this is a prudent, fair measure that I think taxpayers will appreciate it. Again, it's not enough, but it's something that does send a signal that we do listen, we try to do the best we can for the taxpayers of Omaha in my district, and that's why I'm going to support this today. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. No further lights. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
And just for clarification, this is the revised amendment of the whole as discussed at pre-council.
Yes, my motion is the revised amendment of the whole.
Perfect. And that was my second too.
Okay. Johnson?
No.
Melton?
Yes.
Rowe? Yes. Bagley? Aye. Harding? Yes. Mr. President?
Yes.
Motion passed 5-1. Item 10, a resolution to approve a revision to the 2024 budget to increase the general fund community service programs by $20,000 for the Urban League, $10,000 for Black Agenda Alliance, $10,000 for North Omaha Neighborhood Alliance, and $10,000 for Bethesda Urban Community Development.
The public hearing and vote on number 10 is today. This was introduced by Councilmember Johnson. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
We have someone.
You can
Okay.
speak to it if you want first, and then we'll do the public hearing.
All right, we have here the Urban League. I believe the Urban League has done a lot of things in the Omaha area, I guess. Chief Warren can attest to that. Again, after the pandemic, a number of social services that are being provided in the community have felt the hit. And we are looking for revitalizing those entities such as Urban League. I would like to support their mission, support what they provide to the community, again, that will ultimately serve and improve the overall space in which the community thrives upon. It would also help with the youth in terms of providing them with tools and after-school programs. It will also help with reducing crime in our areas. All of those good things that a city should and has, this city has done in the past. So again, Urban League they were here, Mr. Brown was here earlier, however, because we became very lengthy in our discussion, he has gone, I guess he ran out of time, but he came to advocate for this need. Then we have the Black Agenda Alliance. This is also a group in the community that is providing community outreach to youth. They bring in particularly young men. They have about 6 to 8 acres of land whereby they are able to let young men stretch their legs, show them the fundamentals of growing into manhood there on the campus. And I would like to see that agency, that organization to continue to thrive and give back to the community and show young men in particular to what they need to do to continue to go on the right path. Then we have neighborhood associations. We have NONA, and then we have this new emerging organization. Again, we had the individual that was here earlier, Larry Shannon, Bishop Shannon. These two organizations are going to assist with getting neighborhoods back on the right foot, right track, gather and utilize more engagement into the community. And so again, they're needing a lift to get back into the space that we were in prior to the pandemic. I move that we approve these.
I'll second. We'll now start the public hearing. Are proponents, please, on number 10?
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I want to support the $50,000 that Ms. Johnson, Councilor Johnson brought forward. I also want to support the remaining itemized $50,000 that the councilors are bringing forward. I think, I guess procedurally, under budgetary matter, is a good development in the last few years. I support this number 10 because of the services that they're providing. But I do want to encourage or point out that public spaces are important. So do look at your public spaces inventory the city provides. I think Mr. Harding is going to make an amendment to his
All right, let's keep it to agenda item number 10.
to his item. Well, I'm going to leave, as you know, recalled. But I want to support any additional amendments to public spaces.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents to number 10?
Cheryl Weston, 1299 Omaha, Nebraska, 68102. And I don't want to be called out of order, President Festerson, but I did check with Jim Downing to how I was to be able to present my opponent or proponent and opponent to number 10 because it was all hooked into one. I am very much in supportive of the $10,000 going to North Omaha Neighborhood Alliance. I think that neighborhoods in North Omaha need to have any assistance possible to be able to build their neighborhood associations. At one time, my previous residence, I lived in the area of the oldest neighborhood association that existed in the city of Omaha. And what happened is because as those members became older and younger members did not join, that evaporated. Now we have NONA, which is trying to help build those back up because they play an important part, because they bring the community together and people together and bring people together to come down here and see you. So I'm very much in supportive of that. I'm also very much in supportive of the $10,000 going to the Black Agenda Alliance. They do an extremely job in North Omaha with helping particularly young Black men so that they don't become part of the criminal justice system. They help them to become and understand what being a man is about, their responsibilities, physically, mentally. They're helping them to understand financial literacy. They do a tremendous job, and they could use more money than this $10,000. What I am opposed to is that $20,000 going to the Urban League. That is not enough. It should be going to the Black Allegiant Alliance. And I say that because in November 22, the city of Omaha, through ARPA funds, gave Urban League $300,000. Mackenzie Scott, the ex-wife of Amazon, she gave him a $2.5 million. I think that should be sufficient. And then also did background research from the time that the former executive director left to become city staff for the mayor here. The salaries dropped, so they have now gotten another $40,000 additional because the current executive director and assistant or VP director, I'm not sure which title, their salaries have put $40,000 back into the pot. The Urban League at this time, when there are so many other organizations, Councilman Johnson, that could use that $20,000, I am opposed to giving that to them. I don't know how you break it up or amend it or what. And then for the new urban community development, here's another. We have enough organizations, nonprofit organizations in North Omaha that are doing good work that we don't need another new one in emergency to start up and help them. Why not give that money to groups that have shown what they have done? They have a track record. That's where I think that money should go to. So as I said, I asked Jim Downing how to come up here to speak what I wanted to say. So I'm not off record. I don't want to be escorted out. So I appreciate that. But I just don't feel, and I don't know how you amend it or change it. But I'm not alone in speaking when our community is saying, why are you giving more money to an organization that already has gotten close to $2.8 million when you could help other organizations? So that's the reason why I'm an opponent.
Thank you. Yes, and it's noted that you're a proponent of the item, but an opponent to the third allocation there. All right, thank you. Other proponents to number 10? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. I am definitely opposed to $10,000 for Black Agenda Alliance. And the reason, again, is I don't like the wording. It's probably a new thing, like this lady said, another new one. I'm not sure I'm against Urban League because I think they have done some good. But the point is, all the years that they've been in existence, are they not yet self-sufficient? Does not the community philanthropic community and the nationwide 501c3s help support them? The city of Omaha residents are being asked for more. At some point, every one of these nonprofits have to become self-sufficient, or you cut the funds, because there's not going to be any funds left. ARP is disappearing real fast, and a grant will eventually disappear. But at Constitution Week, you are giving away your sovereignty again to the national government, which is not considered in our republic. the concept of federalism, yes, share government, but you are not supposed to be subservient to the federal government. And when you use grant money and ARPA money, you are being superseded by their rules. And when they want to pull the money, they'll pull the money, and then all these people are going to be mad at you. You got to stop it.
Any other proponents to, or opponents to number 10? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. There's no further lights. There was a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 11, a resolution to approve a revision to the 2024 budget to increase the general fund in the Parks Department by $50,000 for the Willowwood subdivision.
Public hearing and vote on number 11 is today. This item was introduced by Ms. Melton. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll be quick. I don't think my microphone's on. There we go. Instead, I know that the mayor has traditionally, like I had said before, kind of allocated $350,000 for council members to allocate to community service. I actually asked our Parks Director, Matt Kalcevich, there's some projects that need to be done, I think, in parks in my district, but Willowwood specifically is a neighborhood that we annexed, and it's a neighborhood that has over 74 acres of common ground that the parks have to take care and maintain. 74 acres for one little neighborhood. This is not a neighborhood with a HOA that collects dues that can do any of this on their own. These are hardworking people that live in Willowwood, and we've kind of gotten, at least since I've gotten on council, we've gotten behind. We're at least 10 years behind. So every year, Parks works really hard, and they try and maybe get an acre or 2 or 3 cleaned up, but there's 74. And so at this time, parts of it that we cleaned up 10 years ago when I got on council needs to be cleaned up again, and there's parts of it that's never been touched. So I'm just reallocating that money back into the Parks Department budget in order to help maybe get this issue taken care of for Willowwood. I think if we could get the 74 acres maybe cleaned up all at once, Parks is going to be able to have maybe put on a track for continued maintenance. So really, this is deferred maintenance in an area of our city that just really needs the brush, the dead trees, tons of it that needs to be removed. So I'm just asking that my money go back into the parks budget for that purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. Proponents of number 11 today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Move the approval.
There's a motion and a second to approve. No further lights. Roll call.
Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 12, a resolution to approve a revision to the 2024 budget to increase the general fund community service programs by $40,000 for the Nebraska Center for Workforce Development and Education, $5,000 for the Healthy Housing Omaha, and $5,000 for the Omaha Irish Cultural Center.
Public hearing and vote on number 12 is today. Mr. Begley, this is your amendment. You may open.
Thanks, Mr. President. We have Jim Dowding here. Jim Dowding. It's been a long day. He's back.
He's
there.
always here.
Jim Vecchio, Irishman, Italian here. I got it. Sorry. Apologies. Mr. Vecchio, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for coming down today, and I'm excited to support, once again, the Nebraska Center for Workforce Development and Education. If you want to give, I know you can be long-winded, so if you could hit your main points on the great work that the Nebraska Center for Workforce Development and Education does, and I'll fill in whatever you miss.
Certainly.
Welcome today. Thanks for coming.
Well, first of all, to follow protocol, it's Jim Vecchio, and the business address is 6001 Grover Suite, Suite 2, 68106. You know, I just want to say, I know it's been a long day, and I'm not trying to placate anybody, but I appreciate what you guys are doing today. I know this is pretty tough on some of the conversation, but I do appreciate your service to the city. The Nebraska Center for Workforce Development and Education is a 501c3, and we actually have 3 programming disciplines underneath the center itself. We have what's called Project Reset, where we mentor justice-involved individuals, and we mentor them, coach them, call it what you will, and try to provide them a career pathway to skilled trades. Because we all know that we've heard and we've read that the trades are actually in a dire strait situation in the next 5 years, where they're going to have to really fill a skill gap, about 5,500 to 6,000 retirees. So the mission for Project Reset is to mentor those justice-involved individuals and guide them in a career of the skilled trades. Then we have our resiliency program, and that is a nice, I'd say, a use of euphemism for mental health. And that is where some of our participants that come out of the justice system do need help in this regard, as well as first responders, some of the health professionals that came out of the pandemic that was mentioned here earlier a couple times, where they help enough people, and some of their people that walk through the front doors to the general public looking for that type of help. And that is something that we're able to do for some of these first responders, some of the healthcare workers, or whoever needs it right now. That's our primary focus, is for some of the first responders, for that matter. And then we have our tools program, which is an acronym for trades that offer opportunities that lead to success. And we're introducing the trades, or a pathway to the trades, to area high school juniors and seniors. And we've been in partnership with Omaha Public Schools, trying to get into the schools, some of the public schools itself that are probably underprivileged, and some of those kids itself with the lower in the socioeconomic levels of the families, and we help guide them in the career of the trades itself. And then we have a association with the William Brennan Institute for Labor Studies at UNO. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, and I tried to be as succinct as I could there for you, Councilman Bagley.
No, well done, Jim. And I want to emphasize the investment of this $40,000. It's one of the parts you said was, besides recruiting young men and women to a path in the building trades where you get a good paycheck, some dignity, retirement, health care, all the things that are important. But people that are incarcerated, everybody needs a hand sometimes, and some guidance, and a second chance. And that's what this program gives. We offer, the Nebraska Center offers, instead of being incarcerated again, recidivism is a major problem, building more jails. This helps to get people back on their feet through the mentoring program you talked about. In the building trade, that somebody can have their hand and teach them the ropes and teach them the structure of your 40-hour work week, reporting to work on time. I think you guys even provide boots.
We do.
And tools if necessary. I mean, we could sit here and talk all day about this is an investment to keep people from going back to jail. It gives them that hand and a light. So thank you for coming down, and I appreciate
Absolutely. Thank you.
All the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Good afternoon, Mr. President, Council. My name is Jeff Weaver. I am the Director of Community Partnership for Lutheran Family Services Healthy Housing, located at 1425 South 13th Street, Omaha 68108.
So I think maybe, I'm told you might be on this next item.
Wait till we're done with the Nebraska Center.
Oh, we're just doing with the Nebraska Center?
Yeah.
My apologies.
If you want to support the Nebraska Center, you're welcome to.
I support them as well.
Well said. We'll get you on the next item. Other proponents to number 12? Mr. Corrigan.
Wait a minute, sorry. We were done with the Nebraska Center, right?
Yes.
I am sorry. I wanted to make sure we weren't done with the Nebraska Center if there was any other comment. So I really got you all screwed up there.
We're okay. This is the same item. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, John, I'm sorry.
Yep. We're still on proponents to number 12.
That's my fault. I apologize.
I see an Irishman in the audience. I suspect he's on this item.
Good morning, thank you. Good afternoon. John Corrigan, 6700 Mercy Road, Suite 501, 68106. I'm here just to offer our support for item 12 with respect to the $5,000 community grant to the Omaha Irish Cultural Center. I am a member of the board of the Omaha Irish Cultural Center. We started this organization about 10 years ago. And it has a goal and mission of providing awareness and and the knowledge of the Irish cultural community, both in its development of the city of Omaha, but also in eastern Nebraska, western Iowa, and the communities where many Irish people settled and wound up then coming into the city. We achieve this goal or this mission by offering educational events, music, dance, history, lectures. We just hosted a lecture from Ireland last, I think on the 22nd of July, regarding an ancient poet that is resonating today in Ireland. Last year we hosted the U.S. ambassador from Ireland to Omaha, the first U.S. ambassador to visit the city in many, many years. And our next event will be hosting a noted historian regarding the Irish participation in the American Civil War. These are things that we do because at least in the last census, almost 15% of the people in Douglas County reported having some Irish heritage. We think that's an important thing to understand and to cultivate, and we participate both in getting grant funding from the Irish government, which we've received in assisting immigration and Irish immigrants in the area, as well as simple funding based on the events that we have and donations that we receive. And so we'd ask that you approve this. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the organization, and certainly there are a lot of great community organizations that are under consideration. We appreciate that the OICC would be one. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call for additional proponents, and I'm going to invite you back up to the podium because, in fact, you were correct. Healthy housing in Omaha is part of this.
I didn't mean to be out of order.
This amendment. So we appreciate your brevity, but you're welcome to share your thoughts again.
Once again, my name is Jeff Weaver. I'm the Director of Community Partnerships for Lutheran Family Services Healthy Housing, located at 1425 South 13th Street, Omaha, Nebraska 68108. Lutheran Family Services is committed to addressing housing issues that impact the health of our communities. We do that through a holistic approach through case management, education, and housing intervention. This approach provides the family with critical information impacting their health, steps to remedy any issues that are identified, and educate families to maintain their healthy homes after completion of our program. Our data-driven approach ensures effective service delivery, and our Asthma In-Home Response AIR program is a prime example. AIR supports families with asthmatic children by providing resources, healthy air supplies kits, and case management. This innovative and intentional approach was recognized nationally with the National Environmental Leadership Award by the EPA. The majority of our customers in previous years have been located east of 42nd Street. So we look at and work with families that are moderate to low income in addressing those respiratory issues that may be impacting their home, as well as radon, which we'll address in a moment. By reducing asthma-related emergency, AIR has significant cost benefits to the family and the community. According to a recent study, the average financial impact to families with an asthmatic child is over $3,000 annually. However, a recent study in the Journal of Asthma found that families who have enrolled in our AIR program after 6 months saw a reduction of 79% in emergency room visits, a 78% reduction in hospitalization, and a 46% reduction in asthma attacks. Involvement in AIR increases school attendance, less missed time at work for both those parents and guardians, and more funds available to the families, and less stress on local hospitals. Nebraska is ranked third as the third worst in our country as far as radon. We're behind Minnesota and Iowa. In addition to our work with the families who have impacted by asthma and respiratory illnesses, we conduct radon testing for qualified families. The CDC states that radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer in our country, behind only that of smoking. If levels are detected above the acceptable limit, we install a radon mitigation system to reduce those radon gases. Our program provides a legacy of improved living conditions that positively affect various aspects of family lives, including housing, jobs, schools, health, and finances. Our expertise in assessing home environments for risk mitigation, coupled with our dedication to education and patient empowerment, positions us as a vital partner in the healthcare system. At LFS Healthy Housing, we're not only transforming spaces, we're transforming lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents to number 12? Seeing none, any opponents to number 12?
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette Avenue. Omaha, 68132. I think I'm against everything except for the Irish. I haven't heard of them in quite a while. But these other programs are probably covered multiple places by multiple programs. When you add them all together, it's a powerful lot of money. If you take this agenda item from page 1 and add up all the things for community services, which I didn't have time to do, I would be probably totally astounded at the total dollar of that just on this agenda. I don't know how we can continue to support all that. Somebody's going to have to be told no somewhere along the line. Who will it be, and when will we start? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents to number 12? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Bagley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Jeff, real quick question for you. Thanks for coming down today and all the work you do. You're located, I know I attended the ribbon cutting at the Lutheran Family Services building on 79th and Dodge.
That's correct.
Are you still going to keep a location down on Little Bohemia on 13th Street?
Yes, Jeff Weaver, 1425 South 13th Street, 68108. We're planning to keep that location there in the community. We think it's vital to be a part of the community and help invest in the community and be a centralized location that the people know where we're at, you know, as we're trying to move forward with that.
Okay, thanks for that. Because I know last summer when I had a meeting with Karen, was your director, and
that's correct,
and Ben Gray had set that up, and I had a nice chat with them and got a real good understanding of what this program does and the impact not only in people in District 3, but in North and South Omaha, east of 42nd, you said. So thanks for coming down today, and I'm glad to sponsor this today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other
motion?
questions?
Motion to approve this, yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
There's a motion and a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 13, a resolution to approve a revision to the 2024 budget to increase the general fund community service programs by $40,000 for the Heartland Hope Mission and increase the Parks Department budget by $10,000 to purchase communication boards for various park playgrounds.
Public hearing and vote on number 13 is today. This was introduced by Councilman Rowe. The floor is yours.
Mr. President, I have two items that I'd like for your consideration. The first one is a $10,000 request. I've been in communication with a mom down in Rowlett, Texas, and she has a son that is autistic and is nonverbal. And she's worked together with the team and put a company together called Smarty Symbols. And what they do is they create a communication board. It's basically a big sign that has symbols on it that allows nonverbal children to communicate with each other, their parents, and other kids. And I have envisioned that we could put 4 of these into 4 different parks in Omaha that would allow parents with autistic children or other kinds of disabilities to be able to enjoy the parks and the playgrounds that we have in Omaha. So it's a $10,000 request that I'd like your consideration on. The other item is a $40,000 request for Heartland Hope Mission. It's a mission that I've become familiar with, and I've invited the CEO, Chelsea Salafow, to come down and just speak to what the mission is doing and how they work. They're currently working in South Omaha and in the Millard area, West Omaha.
Thank you. Chelsea Salafow, 2021 U Street, 68107, and 15555 Industrial Road, 68144. So Heartland Hope Mission operates one of the largest food pantries here in the area. This year will serve over 75,000 people. That's about 56% higher than pre-COVID. But we are more than a pantry, and we really focus on helping families, first of all, not become homeless, and then secondarily, helping them become self-sufficient. So when people come in to receive our food services, everyone is able to meet one-on-one with a client service specialist, and we're doing a deeper intake there and looking at what all is going on in that family situation and what we can do to prevent them from becoming homeless. So that can include getting them signed up for SNAP, which is food stamps, We have relationships with the local utility companies to avoid shutoffs and get their bills paid down. We can help get them on Medicaid. We have a Jobs Path program to help connect people with employment opportunities and skills training. We also provide diapers, hygiene items, clothing, and then we can do direct referrals to over 200 other agencies, and we provide full case management for people who need that. The reason this is so critical is because we serve primarily working poor families and a lot of families that have never had to ask for help before, so they don't know what resources are available. So if they can come into our agency and be connected with all of the services they need, it really becomes a safety net so they don't become homeless and are able to work towards self-sufficiency. So we appreciate you considering support today. Thank you.
Thank you. Chelsea, I'd like to move approval for item 13.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. I do need to continue with the public hearing first, however. Are there any other proponents on number 13 that want to speak? Seeing none, any opponents?
Did you say number 15?
13? Number 13, right, Larry?
Larry Storer, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. I suppose it's a federal mandate.
This is number 13, right?
I thought you said 15.
13 right now.
Yeah. EPA. Oh, yeah, Big Brother.
We're on 13.
I'm sorry, 15,
Number 13.
13.
Wait 2 more. Then come back.
Okay. Sorry. I guess I'll pass on that one.
Okay, thank you.
But it's in that long list of ungodly amount of money.
Any other opponents to number 13? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. There was a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 14, a resolution to approve a revision to the 2024 budget to increase the general fund community service programs by $15,000 for the B&B Sports Academy.
Public hearing and vote on number 14 is today. This was introduced by Mr. Harding. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm waiting for my amendment to come back. I found a little, no, we're okay? Oh, okay. All right, thank you. I have my sheet back. We have an amendment of the whole. So in addition to the, what I had originally proposed on the $15,000 for B&B Sports Academy, which builds body, mind, and character, and it's more than boxing. It's teaching kids how to be young women and young men, which I think is something that would be money well spent in our community. In addition to that, and you have the amendment of the whole in front of you, I'm also proposing $10,000 for Drive 25, Keep Kids Alive. This is a group that's headed up by Tom Everson here in Omaha, national in nature, but the local chapter. This is Councilmember Melton and I worked with Tom when we were switching over to FCC as our garbage hauler and recyclable collectors to put the idea was to put stickers, the Drive 25, you may have seen them around town in certain neighborhoods, Drive 25, Keep Kids Alive, on the carts, and we thought that would be, working those into the neighborhood would be a great reminder so people would slow down the neighborhoods. There were some legal issues that we had to work through that we couldn't overcome, so we couldn't do that project, but they have a number of other projects. As we talk a little bit about Vision Zero, and I do agree with some of the components of Vision Zero, not all of the components of Vision Zero, but certainly some of their efforts are about making sure we have safer streets. And as has been mentioned before, we make these or we might be voting on these projects and for these 501c3s but they still have to go through an approval process with Amber Parker and the grants committee at the administrative level too. And then the last one is on, it's under the Parks and Facilities non-personnel. This is actually, I think actually Ms. Weston left. I think she was the one who mentioned this too, and she brought up, and I know a lot of you are tired of hearing me say it too, that we're elected by district, but we work for the city of Omaha as a whole. I wanted to make sure that we also, as I said earlier, we've now closed a chapter on the last representative for District 4 and opened a new one today. But I wanted to make sure that in this budget, in the community, some of the community programs, to make sure we don't forget about District 4. So this money would actually just go back into the Parks Department because the skateboard park at Seymour Smith Park is in dire need of repair. I've talked with Director Kalsevich about that, and this doesn't certainly address the whole issue as it relates to what's needed for Seymour Smith Skateboard Park, but it certainly gets them well on their way. And I just wanted to make sure that, because we've had some people ask us not to pass the budget until a District 4 representative is seated, that because of timing and having to report our budget to the state is not possible. But again, wanted to make sure that we did something in this budget in those community dollars for District 4. So that's what the $35,000 for Seymour Smith Skateboard Park is. With that, I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. We'll now take any proponents on number 14.
Tamika Meese, North Omaha Community Partnership, 2406 Fowler Avenue. In regards to the $15,000 for B&B Boxing, I do support that effort, and I would like for B&B Boxing to not only be recognized as just a sports academy that provides a safe haven for our children in our North Omaha community, but they also serve as violence prevention and also violence intervention programs. And B&B Boxing also partners with organizations like North Omaha Community Partnership, where we offer wraparound services such as food assistance, utilities assistance, mental behavioral health therapy, individual and group. This is a holistic effort that is put on by B&B Boxing Academy. So I just mainly wanted to speak in support of that, to not only look at it as, you know, you're investing in, you know, kids just coming into, you know, a gym and boxing, but they are actually getting what they need. Their parents are actually getting the support that they need. It's bigger than that. And the philanthropic efforts of, you know, our world champ, Bud Crawford, expands beyond his boxing academy. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents on number 14? Seeing none, any opponents?
13 or 14.
This is 14.
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. I forgot to squeeze this in on all the other ones, so I'm going to do it now. I am opposed to anything that's going to possibly reduce appropriations or money that's going to be needed for law enforcement, either Department of Corrections or Police Department. But a lot of these things are putting pressure on that. And I know the national agenda is to convince the local bodies to reduce funding for police work. We probably have a problem finding police recruits. We maybe need to increase pay. We need to maybe increase benefits. And your overall responsibility, above all else, is the protection of your citizens. So reducing public safety is not on the table. I heard one person suggest that earlier today. And that should be a very much a no. Thank you.
Any other opponents to number 14? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. There was a motion and a second to approve the amendment of the whole. No further lights. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 15, a resolution that the Omaha City Council requests the 2024 budget include one full-time grant-funded position in the Planning Department to administer the Climate Action Plan and to add a comment to the Planning Department's summary page documenting the department's budget of the $1 million EPA grant funding.
Public hearing and vote on number 15 is today. I introduced this amendment. I'll just give it a short summary. What this amendment does is it formally adds the acceptance of the EPA $1 million grant and documentation of that grant-funded position within the Planning Department that has been designated to pursue and help comprise our comprehensive climate action plan. This amendment doesn't do anything we haven't already approved. It just documents it into the budget. It was observed during our public hearing there was nothing in the budget that reflected our commitment to that, which was true. So I see it as getting that done so the public knows and as a transparency and budgeting type of amendment. With that, I'll open it for proponents. Any proponents to number 15? Seeing none, any opponents?
Long day. Larry Storer, 5015 F. Lafayette, Omaha 68132. You know, I think only God knows whether there's going to be a climate action or not. So I don't know why we're kowtowing to all of the national organizations and the federal government on this. Unnecessary. If you need flood control items, things like that, yeah. But that can be arranged without jumping on the bandwagon of a national change our society program. This is ridiculous. EPA is in everybody's pocket in every way. That's federal control of your local government and your local cities. It's got to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents to number 15? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Rowe.
I'm glad that you explained the reason for this resolution because it was unclear to me. It seemed to me that we voted for a climate action plan in the spring. And then just in the last week or two, we voted for accepting funding for the climate action plan. It seemed to me that everything's been pretty clear that it's going to be something that planning department is going to be working on. So I guess if it's just for a matter of transparency, if somebody's going to read the line item in the budget and they need to see that we did accept that funding and that we did act and I mean, I didn't vote for it, but we did act on and establish that we would put a plan together. I'm not sure what this resolution was doing, but from your explanation, it's just merely for people to read it in the budget.
That's correct. So the budget reflects that we are in fact doing this in 2024, which has already been approved, but just wasn't included in the proposed budget originally.
Okay. It seemed redundant to me, but I guess if it's for transparency, I'm for that.
Thank you. I don't see any further lights. Is there a motion? I'll second. Roll call.
Johnson. Yes. Melton. No. Rowe. Bagley. Aye. Harding. No. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 4-2. Item 16, a resolution to approve an increase of an additional 1% to the budgeted restricted funds for the fiscal year 2024.
The vote on number 16 is today. It requires the approval of 6 council members. There is no public hearing on this item. Is that correct? Requires 5 votes. Is there a motion?
Move the approval.
There's a motion and a second. And just a notation that the agenda does say it requires a vote of 6, but in fact requires a vote of 5, as just confirmed with the law department. So there's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Johnson.
Let's see, Mr. Curtis, do you want to address this item?
Yeah, we tried to work up Steve Curtis, City Finance, we tried to work up a concise statement, and I think the most concise way to say this is this increase to the restricted funds lid gives the city the increased flexibility in the future for budgets to be in compliance with state law. It does not make any changes to the current budget as submitted.
Okay.
Milton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 17, a resolution to approve the 2024 City of Omaha budget as submitted by the mayor and finance director with revisions adopted by city council at this meeting.
The public hearing on the proposed budget was already held, so this is the vote today on the budget and now as amended, which is number 17. So this does not require any public hearing. Is there a motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-1. Item 18, a resolution to approve the 2024-2029 Capital Improvement Program. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
The public hearing was already held on the capital improvement program, so this is just the vote on number 18 today. I do see a light. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Yes, and Mr. President, just going to make my objection known. This budget, capital improvement, does not adequately support the needs of the Omaha community. We still have individuals that are bleeding within the Omaha community. Yes, we have thrown small amounts of support to the down and trouted, but we have not addressed the needs of small businesses. We must do more. With that being said, I will be voting no for this as well.
Thank you. Ms. Melton, you're recognized.
I just want to make sure that for everybody out there, we're voting on the capital improvement project, and these are what we use bonds for capital improvements. We cannot use these funds for anything other than capital improvements. That would be major infrastructure projects such as bridges, roads, major projects in our parks, the widening of roads, buildings. So capital improvement plan, and this is a 5-year plan that we put out. So that's what we use. Our budget right now is, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, the general fund is around 520 million, but our capital improvement, it's another $500+ million. Is that correct, Mr. Curtis?
Steve Curtis, City Finance, that's correct.
Okay, so that's what we're approving, this other 500 million. It doesn't come out of the general fund for major projects, improvement projects in our cities, just for the public's awareness of what we're voting on right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. I'd like to echo the sentiments of point of clarification, understand fully what capital improvement is. However, my point of view regarding meeting the needs of the community that is not being met from an overall standpoint still holds true. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harding.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. No further lights. Roll call.
Johnson.
No.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-1. Item 19, to consider a Class C liquor license for Moxie Hotel located at 409 South 12th Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 19 is today. Proponents, please. Looks like we have someone here. Yeah.
Me.
Yeah,
he
go ahead.
was on.
Yeah, it's okay.
Donor was on for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm Tracy Travis with Dine and Dash Lodging, requesting a liquor license. You need the address for?
And this is number 19, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and then just your address?
For them?
Yeah.
For them.
Yeah, that's fine.
409 South 12th Street.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for, thanks for staying here. I know it's been a long afternoon. Any other proponents on number 19? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Motion and a second, roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you. Good luck.
You can go.
Item 20, to consider a Class C liquor license for Hank's Entertainment located at 3922 Ames Avenue.
Public hearing and vote on number 20 is today. Proponents, please. Thank you for staying, too.
Hello, Kevin Cook, 3922 Ames Avenue, Hanks Entertainment. And we simply keeping the name the same. We just changing one of the members. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 21, to consider a Class I liquor license for El Patron Mexican Restaurant located at 1605 Vinton Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 21 is today. Proponents, please.
Hello, my name is Lorenzo and I'm the owner of El Patron and just want to get my liquor license.
Thank you. And your address, too?
1605 Vincent Street.
Thanks. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Ms. Johnson.
Comment.
Okay.
Move the approval.
Second.
I'm going to call it a motion by Melton and a second by Bagley to approve. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you.
Item 22, to consider a Class I liquor license for Sandpoint located at 655 North 114th Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 22 is today. Proponents, please.
Jonathan Taylor, 655 North 114th Street. Liquor.
Here to answer any questions? Yep, great, thank you. Any other proponents today on number 22? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Move the approval.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 23. Item 23, to consider a Class Z liquor license for Patriarch Distillers located at 11005 East Circle.
Public hearing and vote on number 23 is today. Is this by Zoom today? Okay, I think we have the proponent by Zoom. We'll get you off mute here in a second. Okay, try that. Can you hear us there?
Yes.
Okay. Name and address.
My name's Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jeff Doring at Patriarch Distillers. And we are just applying for a license so we can store our finished goods of our spirits and aging barrels of our spirits at this location at Grattan Warehouse at 11005 E Circle. It's only going to be used for storage facilities.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Mr. Rowe.
I move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 24, a resolution to approve the revised preliminary plat for Coventry Wood located northeast of 216th and Harrison Streets. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 24 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Items 25 and 26 can be considered together for Bajas located southwest of 18th and Howard Streets. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 25, a resolution to approve the final plat. Item 26, a resolution to approve the subdivision agreement.
Public hearing and vote on items 25 and 26 are today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed, unless otherwise provided by the City Council Rules of Order.
The public hearing on agenda items 27 through 30 were held on August 29th. I don't see any further lights. Is there a motion?
Move the approval.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
The public hearings on agenda items 31 through 51 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address on who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. This is 31 through 51.
My name is Scott Lurie, 15548 Burdette Street, Omaha, Nebraska, here in reference to item number 31. Here to support myself on this.
All right, great. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Anyone else on these items? See none, public hearings closed. Are you on these items, Larry? 31 to 51? Yeah. Okay.
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. I'm basically opposed to 44 and 45. And number 45 particularly because I don't think the citizens know enough about the home program. I think our law enforcement people have a few issues with who qualifies for being sent home instead of detained. And I think there's probably been some people that committed crimes right after they were sent home. But they keep going back and keep getting assessed and sent home again. So maybe we need a presentation
Larry, that's not
to find out what that's about. I'm against it, okay? I'm against it.
Okay, thank you. Public hearings on 31 through 51 are closed.
Move the approval.
There's a motion by Melton, second by Harding. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Brother Sebastian is really good right But anyway.
Yeah.
Item 52, an ordinance to approve the Blue Stem Prairie Second Edition Phase 1 and 2 Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Agreement.
The vote on number 52 is today. There are no further lights. Oh, Ms. Johnson, you're recognized. Mr. Harding, are you sure you want to second that item?
Oh, actually,
I didn't think you did either. There's a motion by Councilmember Johnson and a second by Mr. Rowe.
Why is that so bad?
No further lights. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Harding abstains. Item 53, an ordinance to approve the restated memorandum of agreement with the Professional Firefighters Association of Omaha, Local 385, concerning healthcare trust establishment.
The vote on number 53 is today. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Second.
Motion a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Johnson.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Abstain.
Motion passed 5-0. Festerson abstains. Item 54, a resolution to approve an updated budget for the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds in the amount of $112,591,455.
Public hearing and vote on number 54 is today. Proponents, please.
Bernard Indenbosch, Deputy City Attorney. I'm here, as well as Nicole Sweeney from the Finance Department. This is a requirement of the ARPA funding that we receive. Obviously, it lists generally the ARPA projects. Obviously, as you know, individual allocations have come to you for approval, and they will continue to do so. But this is, you adopted a similar resolution last year. There's obviously have been a few changes for projects that have come before you. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to attempt to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The coronavirus, the ARPA funds, none of which address the needs of small businesses within communities in which these funds should have been supportive of. Therefore, I will be voting no on this item.
Okay, thank you. I may ask just one question too, Mr. Curtis. I know this is a requirement and we're updating the allocations, but there are still allocations to be made that are not reflected on this this summary, right? You're still dealing with some funds that remain to be allocated.
Steve Curtis, City Finance. There was about 600,000, and the decision was made, similar to what the state and others have done, is to use the remainder for rehiring, which was certainly a component of what you could do, with the understanding that if there were other programs, we could. We'll get you a cleaner version, because I think by the time we do the mental health facility, we could be about out, but we can get you an updated.
Yeah, that'd be desirable. I know we talked about this in Finance Committee, and it's important we just keep track, in addition to the requirements that, what we're doing today, the actual balances as projects come and go, or maybe don't use all their funding, and therefore additional opportunities, right? Okay, thank you. No further lights. Is there a motion? Motion and a second. Roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-1. Item 55, an ordinance to approve an amendment to the collective bargaining agreement with the Omaha Police Officers Association that adopts the new pay plans for the 2024 and 2025 payroll years. Personnel Board recommends approval.
Public hearing on number 55 is today. Proponents, please. Chief Schmaderer.
Good evening to the council. Todd Schmaderer, Chief of Police, 505 South 15th Street. There is a national staffing crisis in law enforcement. Ever since 2020, attrition has increased and applicants have decreased. The Omaha Police Department is unfortunately a full participant in the national staffing crisis. The Omaha Police Department retains approximately 8% of our applicants once we go through the vetting process. Out of the approximately 400 applicants we had in the last class, or the last application process, we're going to have a class of 20 starting October 2nd. That underscores the need to have large applicant pools. We used to average around 750, 1,000, even 2,000 if you go back a decade. As of today, the Omaha Police Department is down 99 officers. Local law enforcement agencies have increased their overall pay, offered bonuses, and hiked starting pay to compete and elevate over the Omaha Police Department. Nationally, departments are increasing their pay as well as a means to attract candidates. The Omaha Police Department is the largest and the flagship agency of the state of Nebraska. It is imperative the pay is commensurate with our position in the state to attract quality applicants. The mayor and I were determined to correct the issue and brought forward a pay plan proposed where the Omaha Police Department would be the highest to start and the highest to top out. This was done as a means to stem the tide of attrition with veteran officers and to increase the applicant pool. I view the proposed pay package as prudent and necessary so the Omaha Police Department can attempt to crawl out of the national hiring crisis. If passed, an aggressive hiring campaign will commence highlighting the new pay package and other benefits of working for the Omaha Police Department. I'm going to remain in the event there's any questions. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Bernard Indenbosch, Deputy City Attorney, and Deb Sander, the HR Director, is here with me. That we were involved in the negotiations, have a fair amount of detail about the numbers. If you want to get into the numbers, they're covered in the cover letter. I anticipate you've had an opportunity to review that, as have members of the public. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. I do want to thank the OPOA for their time. There were some stumbles here trying to figure out, whenever you're eliminating some steps and trying to figure out how to recalibrate where people are, that does lead to some difficulty. We were able to work through that, and I do appreciate their efforts as well. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you. Other proponents, Mr. Connor.
I would say good afternoon, but it's actually good evening, Council. So I'm Tony Connor. I'm the president of the Omaha Police Officers Association. My address is 13445 Crier Avenue. I've been honored to serve as president of the OPOA for the last 5 years and to give a public voice to Omaha police officers, sergeants, lieutenants, and captains that work tirelessly to keep the city safe. As a recruitment and retention crisis continue to grow in Omaha and around the country, more and more is asked of our officers to maintain the level of public safety our citizens expect and deserve. Working in law enforcement carries its risks and burdens unlike any other vocation. Where else do you, by virtue of your work, face gunmen pointing guns at you, or citizens intending to harm you? Where else, by virtue of your commitment to protecting society, do you face an escalating level of legal scrutiny for doing your job and addressing that harm? This reality creates a dissuasive effort on the recruitment and retention of qualified officers. As a result, law enforcement agencies across our region have increased wages to help recruit and retain qualified and capable police officers. I am here today in support of this ordinance to raise the pay for Omaha police officers to help our city compete in this most difficult environment. We choose to live and work here in Omaha because Omaha is a special place. We recognize and appreciate the support of law enforcement in every corner of this city. Our survey research shows the public support for the Omaha Police Department and the work we do have never been higher. Additionally, we have a strong and supportive relationship with Mayor Gene Stothert and the City Council. We're certainly aware of other cities around the country that have strained or dysfunctional relationships with law enforcement at best. And I want to thank each of you for acknowledging the crisis we face and for taking action to solve these problems. Our Chief, Todd Schmatter, deserves credit for the culture he has created within the department. He has held officers accountable through fair and consistent discipline while praising deserving officers for their brave and exceptional work. The Chief's focus on a large gang unit has worked to disrupt violent crime while bringing trust through a community service focus. We have a core unit with co-mental health responders that help officers on the street when we get calls involving the mentally ill. OPD has some of the best instructors in our academy, training officers to prepare them for any situation they may face, from an armed encounter to a simple report call. While other cities our size have seen significant increases in violent crime, our department has been featured in national news stories for reducing crime despite a national staffing crisis. This is a direct result of our tireless work of our officers and long hours dedicated to protecting our city. While we recognize the achievement of our department, these difficult times, we simply cannot ignore these staffing issues one more minute longer. The Omaha Police Department currently has 30% fewer officers, both in our Detective Bureau and in our gang unit. We have 25% fewer officers in our homicide unit, which must now borrow detectives from other units due to the labor-intensive and tedious work needed to solve a homicide. I get weekly calls and emails from my members working on short crews and patrol, which is the front line of everyday police work to protect our city. Each member of this council represents a constituency that expects a professional and well-trained police officer to respond to an emergency in their neighborhood. I appreciate the opportunities I've had to speak with each of you and about the public safety needs and priorities in your district. To meet these needs and priorities, we must take the financial steps necessary to ensure we recruit and retain a fully staffed and professional police force. Now is an urgent and crucial moment for our city to address these staffing crises. We are currently more than 100 officers short of our authorized strength. For the first time in my 23-year career, we see officers leaving the department with less than 10 years on at a rate that has never been seen before. 50 officers have retired or resigned this year alone, and we're expecting even more retirements by the end of the year. 28 officers will reach 25 years of service this year and may retire. And we also have about 25 that are going to reach 25 years of service next year. Of the 340 new recruit applicants we received last year, approximately 20 are qualified to start the academy next month. These are sobering numbers. This wage increase is only the first step to address this crisis. Since the NFL has just started this week, I'll use a football analogy. It's not time to spike the football with this ordinance today. 2024 will bring additional challenges, and I'm confident that we can work together to find meaningful solutions. I want to end my comments today by thanking Mayor Stothert and Chief Schmatter for their willingness to take the first step in addressing this problem. I also want to thank the chair officers of the OPOA. Our Vice President is Dan Martin. He's a lieutenant that works in the Northeast Precinct on the afternoon shift. Our treasurer is Justin Smith. He's a sergeant in the homicide unit. And Pat Dempsey's our secretary, who's in former homicide detective and former gang unit detective who now works with the OPOA on our legislative priorities. And I'm here to answer any questions you guys may have for me.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other proponents today?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. I'm definitely in favor of this. We need to support everything, every way that we can. But we also need to pay attention to those in the community that are working against the police officers. We had some of them sitting on a few sessions of this body in their black Revolutionary Action Party shirts and their Che Guevara hats a couple of years back, particularly during 2020. Make a face if you want, but they were here. They were right there. And two of them were here again today, but they don't wear those shirts anymore. And it's all about taking the power away from the police and the money for the people that are against us. And those are Marxists. That's Marxist theory. Believe it or not, it's in action. Thank you.
Other proponents to number 55?
Good evening. Tamika Meese, North Omaha Community Partnership, 2406 Fowler Avenue. I'm speaking as a African-American citizen that resides in Omaha. And I have had the pleasure of working with the Omaha Police Department in various settings, one of which occurs weekly with Empowerment Omaha, where Omaha Police Department, along with other law enforcement divisions, meets with community leaders, members, and citizens. And we work together to come up with a solution when it comes to crime and violence in our area. I want to applaud and commend Chief Schmatter for his leadership and the culture that he brings to the department. And it shows with the relationship between the department and the community, and I speak for the community. And I would also be in support of this salary increase because it is needed. And as they explained better than I ever could, that they need to be competitive in this market to bring, talent that we need to protect Omaha. So with that being said, myself as a African American citizen of Omaha, I support it, and I thank Chief Schmatter and the Omaha Police Department, as we are a model city as recognized by the Obama Foundation, and that is because of the relationship that OPD has established with the Omaha community. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Harding, is your light on?
It is.
Go ahead.
It's kind of been on for a while. I had to hold my breath, so. I wonder if Mr. Connor would use the football reference had the Eagles lost on Sunday, but all kidding aside, this is a really important piece of business that we have before us, as has been pointed out, with the declining numbers of patrol numbers and our rank and file, and being down, as Chief Schmatter said, almost just short of 100. And I actually did a little math. I think you said the national average is about 8% of the applicants end up being qualifying for the classes. And this latest one, it's actually for the city of Omaha is only 5%, 20 out of the 400 or so. And I remember back in the late 90s when I worked for the mayor's office that we did have over 1,000 applicants for these positions. And it just makes it, with a smaller pool to find the same number of qualified applicants, it's increasingly difficult. So we need to do what we can, not only to attract but retain our seasoned officers. And I think this is a step in that direction to address that issue. And it does come with a rather steep price tag, but it's one that I think is completely warranted and one that we have to spend. So I want to commend the administration, Chief Schmatter and OPOA for moving this forward and getting it to the point where we're acting on it today, because public safety is priority number one in my mind. We talk about economic development as another one of those legs on the stool of importance for the city of Omaha, but really, in my estimation, you can't have positive economic development if public safety is not your number one priority, because without that, you don't have safe streets, you don't have safe neighborhoods. So we need to make sure that that we not only retain and attract that talent to be the professional officers that we know and expect to serve the public. I'm completely in favor of this, and know that it's been worked into the budget so that we're still able to deliver not a property tax reduction, but at least a levy reduction, which I think is a good thing for the city to be able to work on both of those issues. I want to take one last moment. This is budget related, so don't call me out of order. I want to thank, they've left, but I wanted to thank Andrew and Nicole from the finance department, and Steve Curtis and his team for not only helping with this component of the budget to work it in so that we could address this as well as have a property levy reduction, but all the work that as we have been doing these things and making amendments are over there making sure that we're still delivering a balanced budget. So I think it's important for us to recognize the hard work that the finance department has done in putting this budget together, making sure this budget is balanced and one that the taxpayers can know that has been well scrutinized, well scrubbed, and will move us forward in 2024.
Thank you. Mr. Begley.
Mr. President, I know, Sergeant Connor, this has been a long process for your members, and I had a good candid talk with the chief maybe a few months ago, and it was getting to the point where we're still able to respond and take care of the citizens' public safety calls, but it was getting to that point where it was maybe that line starts breaking a little bit, where things start turning in the other direction. And I know anybody in the city, you want, when you call 911 to have someone come and protect and serve, you want a well-trained man or woman to come that can take care of the call, whether it's in Morton Meadows or Gifford Park or West Omaha, wherever. And I know the process, it's taken several weeks to get here, and it gets to be tough. And I know, Sergeant Connor, you don't have to get up, but it's tough with your membership. Democracy is a tough thing. You got to sell it to your members and educate them and articulate them. And I know Bernard and his team and you guys work together, and it's not easy, but when the sausage gets made, that's what you guys do. And I think it was fair for the taxpayers of Omaha that we can say that we're going to have the best trained and well-compensated, fairly compensated men and women that are going to protect and serve. And as the chief mentioned, we're down 99. And I sat on the Public Safety Committee for a couple years, and that's always in the back of our minds on what's going on, not only in law enforcement, but electricians or building trades, I don't care what, nurses, teachers. So we're doing our best we can to address what we know is a concern with the shortage. And I'm hoping and I'm confident this will take the steps in the right direction, that Sergeant Connor, you won't be losing men and women to go elsewhere because their compensation is going to be fair. And they're going to know that Omaha and this council, we vote on this today, or there's a public hearing today, but that we have your back, and we want our constituents to know that we will continue to do the best we can to have the terrible English here, most well-trained men and women in the police department that'll answer that call. And thanks again for your service, and I'll look forward to supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Milton.
So I'm not going to repeat everything that was just said by my council members. I agree with everything that they said. But I think now that if we pass this next week, which I intend to vote for, I've supported it all along. Hopefully then, Ms. Sanders, we can use this to get out there and help us recruit, because we may do this, but there's no guarantee we'll get the good numbers unless we're getting it out there and promoting it and letting everybody know. So working with Sergeant Connor in making sure that we are giving them what they need to recruit the good people. And so I appreciate all the hard work that everybody put into this. And I know, Tony, you put a lot of work into it, a lot of thought, especially going through all the steps. And then Deb Sanders, I know that then every time they wanted to change something, you'd have to go tweak all the numbers. So I mean, there's a lot of work that went into this that I think a lot of people didn't see in the background. But I appreciate all of you working together. Now let's hopefully, after we pass this next week, promote it, and hopefully we can get those good recruits that the police department needs. And that Sergeant Connor, I think that's going to benefit all of your members as well, so that they're not struggling like they are now. So it'll benefit this whole city, including your department. So thank you.
Thanks. I agree with that, and I agree that police staffing is a crisis right now, down 99 officers in our most recent count, and so I absolutely support this too next week, as I indicated earlier in our meeting today. And it was included, the extra $9.6 million in the budget we just approved, so it is funded. And it is absolutely necessary for the retention and attraction of additional officers. I did want to also commend you, Sergeant Connor, and your members, and also Chief Schmaderer. Our most recent crime stats report to our Public Safety Committee indicates that violent crime is down 50% and overall crime is down 1%, even in light of this staffing crisis. But I know you're spread thin, and that's not sustainable, and so I think this is absolutely something we must do. One question I think maybe for you, Chief, is one step further, the line of thinking that Councilmember Melton was just describing. I think we'll have strong agreement this is necessary next week, and that is needed to try and attract and retain the officers we are currently missing. But it is no guarantee. I guess it's difficult to predict ahead when you're trying to budget and do these recruit classes in 2024. But what is a reasonable expectation we can have in 2024 as we try to get to 906, which is the authorized strength, realizing the actual is way behind?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to come at this from two silos, basically. One, you have your regular recruit classes, and we anticipate an applicant pool to be robust as we compete in that same pool with all other law enforcement agencies in this state. But we're going to do marketing. We're going to target some major cities that have expressed interest in coming to the Omaha area. We're going to target those very heavily. We're talking Chicago, Minneapolis, Des Moines, Kansas City, and a few other major cities we think is ripe, not only for general applicant pool, but we want to do a good, robust class of lateral transfers. The lateral transfers, if we can get a nice class in there shortly after the hiring campaign and the application process, as soon as we can get through the backgrounds, if we can start out with a nice lateral class, that's a real benefit to the Omaha Police Department, which historically we've been fairly successful on in this state, but I think we've sort of tapped that too much now. There's not much left. If we can have a nice, robust lateral class, we can get those officers on the street fairly quickly. The regular class, it takes about 9 months. So in order to be completely robust with staffing in 2024, we're going to have a large lateral class, and then followed up by a large regular class. I really think the health of the staffing, if everything clicks as we expect it to, or want it to, or forecast it does, would probably be more like mid to late 2025 as to actually on the streets. We do have a robust campaign for hiring this go around. We're spending a lot more money at it, a lot more work is going into it. I'll have a comprehensive explanation for the Public Safety Committee on what that will entail in the event this passes at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. I think we are at the lowest level in 10 years, I would say, even though the city's been growing.
Yeah, we are. I think I looked at it, it was like 8-9 years ago, we had this lowest staffing.
And I know it's going to take a while to get to the number we're seeking, which I think is the point you're making.
It is. The maximum class that we can put together is probably about 60. Is space limitations. So that's 60. If we can do a lateral class of 25, that would be the most optimal. There we took a strike at 85 right then and there. So this can be done. We anticipate it can be done, but also, Council President, we do have a contingency layer in place if we need to, if staffing continues to go down and we don't get the hiring numbers. We've already taken management intervention and decreased workload in areas that we felt that we could sustain at the moment to free us up for the higher priorities. We do have another layer of those measures in place if we need to. We're trying to avoid that. And those won't have to go in place, I don't anticipate any time this year. And I anticipate if we get large hiring applicant pool, we can scrap that all together.
Okay, great, thank you. And as we've talked over the years, it's the actual numbers that matter, not the authorized numbers, right? Okay, I don't think I see any further lights. Next item.
Item 56, an ordinance to approve the Diggs Apartments Mason Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Agreement.
Public hearing on number 56 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, evening. Don Seaton, City Planning Department. Pretty straightforward TIF agreement for the project you approved, the Diggs Mason, on August 1st. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 57, an ordinance to approve an agreement with MAPPA in the amount of $250,000 and to authorize funding from the Greater Omaha Climate Pollution Reduction Grant.
Public hearing on number 57 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Non-action items, items 58 through 84, do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on agenda for consideration.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, roll call.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Meeting is adjourned at 5:36.